It's time for the third part of our triple header in 2025 as we do yet another Triple Crown event. 2 weeks ago it was Indianapolis and Monaco. Now we're here at the World Endurance Championship 24 Hours of Le Mans. It is the first practice session and it is about to get underway as we get ready once more to do battle at the Circuit de la Sarthe. Hello everybody and welcome to the 2025 Le Mans 24 Hours. This is going to be something very, very special. I'm Joshua Birch and the JBMotorsports team will be taking you through the entirety of the weekend in conjunction with Radio Le Mans and our team at the World Endurance World Feed commentary as well. The first practice session is coming up shortly. The drivers will be venturing out onto the circuit. 62 cars will venture and thankfully the Iron Dames are here. They pulled out and then they got back in again as well with Sarah Bovey now taking over control of the car after an injury as well. So we're all set to go and this first practice session will last for 3 hours and it's a critical time for the drivers just to get used to the circuit. They've had their test day earlier on, of course, on Saturday and Sunday, but now we can go full speed, get the proper data in and then see who's hot and who's not. Bit of a change as well to our normal World Endurance Championship because we return with LMP2 now coming in, and also there is an expanded GT3 class. So the hypercars, they're as normal, LMP2 join in and GT3 is expanded. So we've got a gaggle of new drivers to host in as well across from the Asia Le Mans Series, the European Le Mans Series and the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. This is going to be fun then. Let's cross over. We've got all the timings, all the monitors that will be pitching in and out. This is our ultimate battle screen. That still needs a bit of TLC. As you can see, it looks like it's actually all switched around again, so that's great news. I'll sort that out in a second. But this is our ultimate battle screen, which will show each class separately across the weekend for you. So there'll be one for, in fact, yeah, this is what I was on about the timings have gone wrong. So we'll switch there. There's Hypercar. LMP2 is back as well. We've got those timings. Timing screens went down around about 20 minutes ago and they only just came back when we came on air. So now all our hard work looks a bit messy, doesn't it? There we go. Let's clean that up because we had to get it through. So LMP2, GT3 and Hypercar is all getting underway. The session's underway in 3 minutes. Let's check in with the World Feed.
The red livery you can see closest to the camera there is a Le Mans only salute by Toyota to some of their heritage. Toyota celebrating 40 years since the first prototype race here for a Toyota-backed car.
That car is here, the 1985 car, but also here is the car that livery, tribute livery, celebrates. It's the 1998 TS020, known to pretty much one and all as the Toyota GT1.
Yep.
That's what that car represents. It has to be said, they've done a really good job of reflecting that very special livery and a very special car.
I remember sitting in that GT1 in the Toyota Museum. It's under the wind tunnel by their simulator, and I sat in it because I love that car. And I'd never been in a Group C car before. I've never driven one, but never sat in one. So I thought, I've got to give it a go while I'm here. And the visibility was the thing that struck me. It's amazing compared to these modern cars. The windscreens got smaller, so therefore, and including GT cars as well, they've gone for more aerodynamics, and generally speaking, your vision from inside the car is a lot more limited nowadays than it was back then.
A quick look there, one of our guests from IMSA earned their entry here, AWA Racing, the third Corvette, aside from to run full season on TF Sports. AWA working with TF Sport here on their fully Canadian liveried Z06 GT3R. Lots of really lovely looking cars here this year. It's been a real treat for the eyes trackside, as well as we hope on this broadcast. Stick with us. Another car, gentlemen, that took a while to get into its stride.
Under 1 minute to open pit exit. Under 1 minute to open pit exit.
The Lexus RCF from Acodius ASP. Another car, I think, that's going to be right up there in the order.
So 1 minute to go.
Copy, all good. So information, we're going to do an installation lap out in. Obviously you're on new tyres, so just look after them, don't work them too hard. Just a simple system check up and down through the gears, steering, after all the work that's going on in the car, and we will try and put you in the queue.
So that's coming as well from the team down there at United Autosports and the number 59 squad as well. We are almost all set to go. Keep in touch with us here on JB Motorsports throughout the weekend. Green light's coming on, let's go down, ready for the start.
And so it is all about making sure that nothing leaks. So do one lap, installation lap it's usually referred to, come back into the pit lane, bit of a spanner check, make sure that everything is tickety-boo.
Green light, and we are underway. The Le Mans. Okay, let's try it again. As soon as the green light came on, the WEC systems froze our timing monitors, but hopefully we're good now. Green light, and away we go. The 2025 Le Mans 24-hour weekend is underway, and this is first practice ahead of us, and let's hope it's going to be a good one. Give us a thumbs up. By the way, if you are good to go, someone's lost a jacket at pit exit. One of the marshals running over the barrier and coming to grab it, which is great news. Let's have a look. Plug said yesterday, F1 and 2 calendars next year. Devin says, I think she took herself through Sunday, so I don't miss any of the session every year. Yeah, the WEC systems are terrible. I will fully admit, I agree with you. The WEC systems are the worst we use because literally, as soon as that green light went on, bang, timing monitors went off, dead. So the whole system froze, and that froze our OBS software. Apologies for that, but we're underway. The cars are venturing out onto the circuit, as you can see. And it's not just going to be us. We will have the World Feed team plus the Radio Le Mans team. And on the main race day, the entire JB Motorsports crew will be coming in for hourly updates and the commentary of the whole show as well. We've got a big team coming in as well. So make yourself comfortable and hope you enjoy it as well. And if you want to watch in the UK, it's no longer on Eurosport because Eurosport's gone. It's now on TNT Sports. So TNT Sports 2 and Discovery Plus have the abilities at the moment to show some more action coming in. Cars are out there though, which is great to see. I'm just going to turn that off in hopes of sorting out my OBS software and it not having a paddy on me, as you can see, because the driver track is looking full. Every single year I go find a boat let in, sometimes I agree. A bootleg. Oh, bootleg. Yeah. It's so bad. Honestly, the World Endurance Championship, every year, it just gets harder and harder and harder to promote the series as anything good when the systems are so much worse trying to get it sorted. Look, even our timing monitors aren't right as well here in our systems. Did I select that correctly? Yeah, they're all hypercars, although for some reason the numbers are all mucked up. I don't know about that. So there's hypercar. If we take a look at the LMP2 squad coming in as well, not many, but they are there on the monitors and they're flying out onto the circuit. So green means they're on a fast lap, blue means they're on pit lane, and yellow means they're on an out lap. So if they've gone green, they're on a fast lap time, is the numbers just alongside. And alongside as well the GT3 category, which is, I know, admittedly harder to read, but there's so many of them in our timing tower that we have to sort of go through them all at once. So it is a bit hard. Let's take a look down at LMP2 with the Holtz Jolter squad looking on. We can now have the ability to go. Now, finally, our systems are fixed. Let's go back to the World Feed.
Give you grip, but it's to endure higher track temperatures. So that's the way they're graded. The white sidewall for the coolest conditions, that's the soft. The yellow sidewall for tends to be actually the catch-all. Covers almost every temperature condition we've come across, but the red hard sidewall tyre, that might be in the heat of the day because it is expected to be a hot week here at Le Mans. At the moment, everybody's going medium. You can just see one of the Mustangs there. That's the 88 car, goes blue at the front to white at the rear. 77 goes white at the front to blue at the rear. Those are on the single Goodyear slick tyre. The Goodyear teams here in LMGT3 have one alternative to the slick, and it's the WEC. So there's no tyre challenge there to be worked out.
That should we get a dry race change at Interlagos next time out with the new Goodyear option tyre being rolled out. We've seen now both Porsche and Cadillac on pit lane. They're the two hypercar manufacturers with 4 cars apiece, but in very different ways. So listen to what's going on in the 95 McLaren.
So it feels worse when braking and turning right, but to be honest, I'm getting it weaving down the straights, going left and right with full throttle.
Darren Young soaking up some challenges inside his McLaren for United Autosports.
So what is it that feels worse? Are they talking about a vibration that he's got?
Sometimes when you put new brakes on the car as well, you get some grabbing from one side more than the other, and it can pull the car, therefore.
Return to Le Mans for Wayne Taylor. The last time Wayne was here at the Le Mans 24 Hours, he was a driver in the Cadillac North Star LMP program. Now he brings a Cadillac with his own team and both his boys, Ricky and Jordan, in that lineup.
He does. 2001, the last time he was here as a driver, a really emotional return for him. In no small part, the switch of his team from Acura, Honda, to Cadillac is because of this. This is the moment he's wanted. He sees the opportunity in a competitive competitive manufacturer to have that family moment. Why would you not?
And Cadillac with the chrome silver and effects on it, but Francois Perotto's car, because we already have an 83 in World Endurance, it's 183 with Mathieu Vaxivière and Antonio Felix da Costa in the lineup. And again, that has got to be a challenger for LMP2 victory yet again.
Despite the fact we've got LMP2 and LMP2 Pro-Am to go to podiums, effectively this race will be managed as LMP2 as one class. We'll explain that as we go through in terms of whether safety cars will be managed, etc. But little doubt amongst the teams that the LMP2 Pro-Am cars very well could be in the fight for overall honours here.
It's another thing for all of the drivers from the LMGT3 category and the hypercar category to get their heads around this weekend as well. It's the arrival or the return of the LMP2 machinery.
But you see the recovery of the Nielsen car. That's why one of the reasons we've gone to full course yellow.
I think that clean-up that you were saying, it may well be another reason. They'll want to stop that opportunity from happening again if there's a load of gravel down that's put Colin off. It's one of our celebrity LMP2 cars. This is Spike, the LMP2 Dragon, numbered 199 here, AO by TF. Second appearance here at Le Mans for this livery for PJ Hyatt's team, and a full season ELMS entry with the car as well here, and they're going well in Europe. So lots of adjustments underway around this field. This one seems to be more than most.
Yeah, it's one of the master cylinders being fiddled with there. PJ Hyatt with Dane Cameron.
3 sets of brothers in this field, which is remarkable, with the Van der Lindes and the Vantors, of course, and a father and son with Stephen and Brenton Grove on the AMGs. There is Colin just getting the car back out onto the circuit, way off the racing line to get rid of any excess gravel that might have found its way into every nook and cranny of that Oreca.
Yeah, and they don't like you driving on the racing line after hours. Is this the culprit that, no, the gravel was already there. So that's what I spotted. So then arrival into Arnage, and you could hear the rear locking actually on the deceleration.
20 seconds.
So it's the combination.
Full course yellow in less than 15 seconds.
Just wait for this call from the full
10,
course yellow.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow removed.
Thank you very much.
So just to touch on full course yellow, because there are various different methods of intervention. Full course yellow is the sort of second tier of intervention. The first will be a slow zone, which, for instance, would have been only at Arnage, from Indianapolis down into Arnage, to protect one particular area of the circuit. Full course yellow, everybody, everywhere, comes down to 80 kilometres an hour. The pit lane speed limit being 60. In comes the 24 Nielsen car after that little excursion. just for a check over. We can escalate from full course yellow to go to virtual safety car in a normal World Endurance race, but here it will be straight to safety car.
And it's just, we'll talk about safety car, I think, when we get one. Inevitably will, but I know we've had questions in the past from fans to the broadcast about in what circumstances does Eduardo Freitas and his team select which intervention. If you think of it this way, for full course yellow, it's an intervention that basically requires people to be put at risk that they think they can clear within, broadly speaking, a single lap at 80 kilometres an hour. That's a Ferrari not up to speed. In that moment,
I was coming out of Arnage, so this is the run down past, well, heading towards what would have been Maison Blanche if they came straight on, or still is, but heading through all. You see the edge of the new tarmac there, and that big bump, that compression has gone, and so the car is much more stable turning into Porsche curves. But you're absolutely right, look at the way the Porsche's going by it. That's the number 5 car.
Yeah.
So that is not quite at speed, car number 50, last year's winners.
Carrying on. So last year's winners are number 50, 51 of course winners in the Centenary race in 2023. And it's fair to say, gentlemen, Ferrari come here with a great big target on their back for pretty much the rest of the field. The spirit in this paddock is quite extraordinary. Everybody talking up the fact they expect this race to be very close.
I don't think they're wrong. I mean, we looked at Spa, and you've just got to multiply it for Le Mans. Toyota fastest on the test day, which is very encouraging for them and for Toyota fans, but it also means that they are in the reckoning. And of course, having been beaten by Ferrari for the last 2 seasons, they want to come back and win Le Mans again. Double yellow flags have been withdrawn from the first corner. And turn 1 is the left-hander at the Dunlop chicane. Or Marshall's post 1 actually is...
It's out, basically.
It's out, yeah. So out comes the number 8 Toyota. Just out of the pit. So the 2 Toyotas, very easy to tell apart this year. Number 8, black. Number 7, red. I'm petitioning for that to remain for the rest of the season.
Exactly, here, long may it stay.
First, let's get first catch up with the times we're beginning to see coming through. Fastest of the session is Antonio Fuoco in the 50 Ferrari at the moment. We've had 15 minutes this session. He's already put in a 3:25.3, 4 tenths up on the first of the Totos, who sits second, and third fastest with the 51 Ferrari, fourth. Lawrence Fantor sits 5th, and number 6 Porsche. He is 1.6 seconds back. LMP2, it's Leadec Sport 1-2. Joffrey Uter to the 28 car in the 3:38.165 ahead of Andre Lotterer, his first ever race in an LMP2 car. He sits second, a little way back from the experienced Dutchman. And then GT3, TF Sports Corvette sits at the top with Charlie Eastwood. The Castle Racing Ferrari number 57, Daniel Serra, and Ahmed El-Hati in the WRT BMW.
That was interesting, wasn't it? The Peugeot just out-dragged the Toyota down the straight towards the first chicane. And there was a car that was saying they didn't quite have the pace they felt after the test session coming into this week. So I thought, well, they clearly haven't. It's clearly not lacking the speed in lap time when it comes to the straight parts of the circuit.
I was going to ask you, because Seb's only just come out of the pit lane, so maybe not totally up to speed, but I don't think they would have taken a new tyre. He was certainly going quicker than that. But, yeah, again, we saw last year revelatory pace from the Peugeot here at Le Mans in wet and dry conditions. If you're going to design a car, design it to win this race. And just take all the others as collateral. It would be really interesting to see Peugeot and Alpine back in the mix. Alpine were in the mix pace-wise last year until they had engine issues on both cars. They retired before nightfall, pretty much. But they've been absolutely on the money and on the podium so far this season. So don't count them out. Porsche, well, they haven't been having a great season in World Endurance, but they're having a stupendous time with the same car and almost identical BOP in America. So it's not that it's not a capable car. Who's got no chance? Well, frankly, the way this race goes, nobody's got no chance even the brand new Aston Martins are going to be quick here. All they need is lady luck and a big dose of reliability.
Okay, while we try and get systems fixed. WEC systems have crashed, by the way, as we were expecting to tell you. So all of our data at the moment is as bad as useful as a chocolate brick, which isn't good news for us, and it isn't good news for you back at home as well. So we are trying to fix the problem. It's the timing screen that won't go. So there's some sort of error preventing the problem, and no matter what we try and do, it just kicks us back out again and again and again. So we are fixing it. We are getting on top of it. It's something to do with this event as well, the session 4933, which is our login detail for it as well, our event capture. It just won't work. Anyway, let's go down to Radio Le Mans.
Tandy with the number 6 Lawrence Vantour also featuring in the top 6 times. None of them have made a pit stop. The only one to have made a pit stop is Brendan Hartley in the number 8 Toyota, and he's now handed the car over to Sebastian Buemi. So Toyota changing drivers. We'll have to keep a close eye on it to see if they change tyres at that stop, but my supposition would be that they wouldn't have. They'd just done a driver change and let Sebastian go out and do some laps on the same set of tyres to see how long they will last. In the race, of course, you've got this tyre limitation, so it's important that the teams are able to do pretty much double stints throughout, and by my reckoning they're going to have to do a triple at least once during the course of the race.
So you've got 24 hours, obviously, but it's surely a bit of a stretch for a hypercar and certainly an LMP2 car to reach the full hour on fuel/energy. And then do you change tyres after, let's say, a 40-minute stint for an LMP2 car around here? So, and this phase of the week, Paul, is considered a single competition. So competition 1 begins at the start of free practice 1 and continues, well, sort of includes the qualifying session that we'll get for each of the 3 categories today, and completes tomorrow night at midnight, free practice 4, and within that, for instance, hypercar, you get 6 sets of tyres, 24 in total.
That's right, but my suspicion is that that's not going to be quite so crucial as the 14 sets of tyres that they're allocated during the race. And as I say, you're going to be double stinting throughout.
The difference being, though, Ryan, is that actually in a World Endurance Championship race, you have to use your qualifying tyres then in the race, and that's not a problem here, because when we start at 4 o'clock the race on Saturday afternoon, that's a new competition, and as Paul says, 14 sets of tyres for hypercar, 15 sets for LMGT3, 14 sets for LMP2.
And my understanding is, if you do the math, that you end up per hour more tyre rich in this event than you would in a traditional WEC race.
That is entirely true. Let's go back to the world feed now.
Into the chicane entry.
Copy.
Well, there is the number 29 TDS car. You heard from driver Matthias Besch on board. Great looking livery as well. It's a very striking car, easy to identify. And we saw the Panis VDS team in their purple with the familiar yellow lion's head on it. Olivier Panis in the pit lane, of course. And there is the other IDEC Sport car wearing the colours, the orange and black. Ooh, crikey, that's a bit wide there. Is that Andre Lotterer?
Yeah, a bit
using
wide.
an Audi-approved line. The orange and black of Genesis Magna Racing. Nothing to do with the 1970s prog rock band of nearly the same name. Genesis, of course, is the elite brand of Hyundai. Oh, and another looping.
Yeah, that's a spin for the number 38 hypercar of the team Jolter for the Cadillac squad coming into Akudamal, the last corner on the circuit, and blocked up several parts of the traffic as well.
Indeed for James Cottingham in 59.
Little bumper it was that took the 38 car around So look what's occurred here. Looks like he did it. He was wide across the curbs there, way over the curb there.
Yeah, he'd already lost it on the left-hand side. You're right, Graham. He took a bit of curb on the right-hand side before even turning into that forward chicane. And then as he's committed over the left curb, the rear didn't like it. He lost the rear there. And then when you get the weight transfer going to the right, it finally went around. So here's a look from onboard, touches the curb on the right, and already starts to lose the rear. Takes too much curb on the left.
Is the car okay, Phil? Is the car okay?
Yeah, the car's okay, but the car doesn't brake still.
Yeah, so he's saying that I'm pressing the brake pedal and it's not decelerating to the level that I would expect,
yes,
or how I'd want it to. So a complaint from the driver there, and sounds like from his comments that it's a known problem, something that's recurring, and hence his frustration. So although it may, and that's always tricky, we talked about lack of visibility in all these cars, and at some point you're absolutely blind to when cars are coming around, but it would be interesting to see what the stewards, how they look at that. I've seen cars actually hit each other in the past with moments very similar to that.
Yeah, just what I was about to say, whether or not there's going to be a look into whether or not that was an unsafe rejoin.
I'm absolutely certain they will.
But, well, no, what they will say is, and what's happened in the past, is that if there was a yellow flag waved at that point, for the driver that's steaming in full throttle,
yes,
they're the ones that are likely to get the penalty.
Well, the problem,
it's not the driver rejoining the circuit.
The problem for the McLaren is, if he is steaming in full throttle and then gets on the brakes in the normal position, and then the yellow comes out.
Well, I'm sure the yellows were waving. They should have been, and if they weren't, they should have been. That's why we have yellow flags. So at this point here, when the car spun around, there was plenty of time, as I saw it, for the next car coming up to have a yellow flag there. Yellow flag, slow down, prepare to stop.
Yeah, but in the slow-mo, there's plenty of time. In real time, it's like a second as the car rotates, and then they've got to get the flag out. So, yeah, they will look at it. Because
if there was no flag, then, you can say it's just one of those situations. It's a racing incident, and no harm was done this time. But this, it's a practice session. It's time for everybody to sharpen up.
Car number 4, not one of our regular full-season Porsche Penske Motorsport 963s. This is the 3rd car in their armoury, brought in by former race winner Nick Tandy.
Nick, a decade on from a famous win in 2015, of course, and what a stellar time he's had since, winning all of the other major 24-hour races in the world. Since then, with Spa and the Nürburgring, and now Daytona been added to that, and having a fantastic run in the WeatherTech Sports Car Championship this year with Felipe Nasr. They're joined by another world champion, Pascal Wehrlein, in his first run at 24 Hours of Le Mans. He's had a couple of races aboard Porsches with a privateer car in IMSA for Daytona, and then joining the factory squad last time out at Spa. But this is absolutely the big one.
Looking here at the number 54 Ferrari that is fastest in LMGT3, Davide Rigon, factory Ferrari driver. He was formerly in their GTE Pro lineup. And Davide Rigon, still a platinum top-graded driver. So hardly a surprise to see that car going really well. Heart of Racing's Mattia Drudi, the number 27 Aston Martin, 2nd quickest. Riccardo Agostini, 3rd fastest. In the Richard Mille AF Corsa Ferrari. TF Sports Corvette, 4th in LMGT3, ahead of the number 21 AF Corsa Ferrari, driven by Simon Mann and Klaus Bachler in 6th place in the better of the Manthey Porsches. So Ferrari certainly looking, as we've expected, as we've seen this season, to be very competitive.
Yeah, on board there for a while with Davide Rigon. Seen, by the way, on social media, cracking little look behind the scenes at what is an integrated 4-car setup for Cadillac across the 3 teams running the cars here this weekend. Remember that we get our own chance to look behind the scenes with the FI World Endurance Championship. That would be no different here with the Full Access Series. Phenomenally successful again this year. A big increase in numbers again last year. The programme from Spa available now free on YouTube, as well as if you subscribe to FIWC.tv. All sorts of fun and games behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories you thought you'd see, and it's a great watch. There's plenty of time to actually grab a look at Spa between sessions here at Le Mans. Firmly urge you to do it.
I can't actually recommend WEC TV subscription strongly enough. €49.99 for the season. Now we're 3 races in, so if you've missed 8 hours of Qatar, you've missed 6 hours of Spa. Where were we? Race 2, forgotten already. Imola, but you've got more than half the season left to go for under 50 sovs, I think, and that includes all the additional content as well, including things like WEC icons, all of the extra stuff that is being put up by the social media team, by broadcast, and yeah, full access is absolutely riveting watching. Even when you've seen the race, you realise there's a lot that you didn't see in the race.
I do not miss it, I have to tell you. Beyond that, what's great to see in what's been an absolute tsunami of social media interest in sports car racing at present are those people, and if you're with us this afternoon, you're very welcome, who are coming to sports car racing perhaps for the first time, and what you're hearing is, where can we watch and where can we see these cars racing? Well, if you're in the United States, do take a look at the ticket office at the moment for COTA. There's a Father's Day offer. I think it's 2 for the price of 1 to come to COTA, and you will be more than welcome. Very friendly atmosphere, very open paddock, and a great circuit to watch motorsport without a shadow of a doubt.
And a great racetrack. It produces some excellent racing. Looking here at a regular routine pit stop, going to be a driver change as well at Toyota. Nick de Vries about to step into the number 7 car. Taking over from the boss, Kamui Kobayashi. So many sights and sounds trackside, and unfortunately the TV, although it gives you a taste, Anthony Davidson, doesn't really give you the full earthquake noise of a world endurance field.
No, it's not like standing at the sidelines, definitely, and as the crowd will enjoy this weekend, or this week, I should say, with all these glorious sounding cars coming by, like this one here, the Mercedes AMG GT. I love what they've done actually with the front bar, colour bar. That's going to really come in handy during commentary for the race, Martin. Yeah, no excuses for you now getting the cars wrong. Every team should take a leaf out of their book, actually.
100%. And actually, for the team in the pit lane, it's really important to discern which of your cars is coming in, because it's not necessarily always the case that they come in separately. Quite often, you will see cars come in together, and having the ability to differentiate them in daylight is one thing, but lots of teams will use funny light arrays. Not comedic, but distinguishing light arrays, so they can tell the difference between their own cars.
I like the look, the stance of these AMGs in that heritage. Oh, dear me, not that stance. But no, not like that. The kind of almost matte silver on those cars, and it does make them look absolutely magnificent.
I feel like who's driving at the moment in number 63 Iron Lynx? I can't see them on
that's
the lap.
Brenton Grove.
That's
Grove,
son of his father.
So yes. Grove was definitely trying a bit too hard, actually, to get out of the way of the Aston behind down the hill through Dunlop, and got on the dirt, got on the greener part of the track. It's not this car here, because they've got the different light parts in the front. Look at that, working in all its glory. But so definitely trying too hard to get out of the way. You get dirt on your tyres, and then by the time you turn into the next right-hand turn 5, you run out too wide, and then you're on the dirt again. So just those moments that the drivers have to learn the different speeds of others out there on track, and learn where you do or don't get out of the way.
And remind you that today, respect yesterday, track conditions, 44 degrees, so for sure we lost rear grip. Plus the wind, we have a now 0 wind compared to yesterday. I'm going to do an adjustment on right height and packers.
Well, there is Stephen Grove, Brenton's dad. They've raced against each other in Porsches for a number of years, racing with each other because of this. This is why they've come to World Endurance, to be at Le Mans as a father and son.
I think I'm right. Aussie Supercars team owner now, Stephen Grove. He's seen Stephen and Brenton racing around the world in all sorts of endurance races and machinery and GT cars. And this is the one The pair of them had an opportunity to race at Spa as a bit of a warm-up for this. But no doubt the passion that's involved in being here and the challenge they're about to undertake.
That's great in the slow-mo shot there. You can really see how much curve the LMGT3 cars can take in that final Ford chicane compared to the stiffer sprung, lower ride heights of the hypercars and the LMP2 cars as well, for that matter. So it's a big advantage for them, and it's one where you come up to a GT car in a hypercar or LMP2 and you're quite often surprised by the speed they can carry through that final chicane. And therefore, as tempting as it is to try and mount an attack down the inside where Bamba spun earlier in the Cadillac Jota, it's quite often better just to chill out a bit on the braking zone and focus on your exit, because even if you do overtake the GT car there, you're not going to have lost any time by following them through.
Board now with Ron DeAngelis aboard the 9 Aston Martin, magnificent looking thing, and the sound is just to die for. This is going to be an extraordinarily popular car here at Le Mans amongst the fans trackside.
And of all the circuits we've seen this car race at so far this year, this has to be the one where they must have their eye on for the best performance so far. They obviously started the season brand new car with the highest level of BOP thrown at them, because you have to do that as a new car. The ACO and the FIA, they don't know what you're going to bring to the party, so they have to give you the strongest BOP that matches the fastest car that they have on record. So they were doubly hit when they first started, brand new car and also a harsh BOP, but now they're freed of that BOP a bit on a track that should suit their car a bit more.
Feels a little bit like the car is floating on top of the tires. The pressures are quite a bit too high.
Yeah, you're correct. We will correct the pressures as well. So the
tyre pressure's creeping up, obviously, in these hot temperatures. As you know, air expands in the heat, and therefore it plays havoc with the tyre temperatures as that's going on inside them. So there's the engineer coming on and saying, yeah, I know you're suffering tyres overheating right now. We'll correct that. We'll do a bleed of pressures next time you come in.
Watching on.
Is it the air expanding, or are they nitrogen filled like in F1?
Ooh, how dare you.
Because it's inert, isn't it? And so they don't expand. But it is the heat of the tarmac. And that's something, again, that Aston Martin are learning, because even in Qatar, track temperatures weren't as high as this. So it's learning all the time, and that's what year one is all about with their program. Why Genesis running an LMP2 team with EDEX Sport? Because they know nothing about endurance racing, and yet their hypercar arrives next season. So they need to learn in a hurry, and exactly like WRT did before they started a hypercar program, you learn endurance racing by going endurance racing, and LMP2 is the perfect place. You're with a prototype, not a GT car.
Well, and also don't forget Orica. We had a lot of Orica mechanics and staff at Toyota when Toyota rejoined the World Endurance Championship back in 2012, and it paid dividends. It really did. It just speeds up, it fast tracks the learning process for the whole team around. So you had, most of them were genuine Toyota staff, but in the very early days you had more than a handful of Orica personnel just showing them the ropes.
And of course you even had Orica running a privateer Toyota as well, very nearly won 25 years after their first victory at Le Mans with Mazda. Of course, they ran the Mazda Speed program. You can see there are number 15 BMW. That's in the more traditional motorsport colours, and behind, that's the Panis VDS LMP2 car.
Run by TDS, this car for PDS, Mark van der Straat and Panis, Olivier Panis. Sorry, it's time for the second correction. It was privateer Peugeot Orica.
Yes, it was.
Back in the day.
Yes, it was.
A fabulous car, and actually beats the factory team at Sebring that year, famously. All sorts of storylines. Rafael Marciello finding his feet, I feel, now aboard this hypercar, this 15 car. Struggled through the first year, as a lot of the drivers did. These are not easy cars to tile into at all. And he certainly attacked that curve, didn't he?
I think with the old LMP1 cars, before this generation of hypercar came along, it was easy. You knew where you stood with that car. It was basically a Formula One with bodywork over the wheels. Lots of downforce, lots of power. And these current hypercars kind of sit somewhere in between that and a GT car. So I think when you're when a driver steps into a hypercar today, even before you turn the wheel, you're thinking, well, how do I treat this car? Do I treat it like a GT car into the corners like we ride on board here with Rahul Frey, into the Mulsanne hairpin? Do you give the car time? Do you expect a lot of body roll when you turn into the corners? We look at the injured Michelle Gatting's right foot, and that's the important foot.
Yeah, there was never a question that she would somehow struggle through, right from Sunday evening when it was confirmed that it wasn't just bruised, it was really broken bones. Yeah, they got on the phone to Sarah Bovey and you're going to have to come here. I know, you know, heartbreaking for Michelle to have to sit out the only race that nobody wants to miss.
It's another piece of extraordinary social media. Take a look at the Instagram page. That phone call is on social media. What a heartbreaking moment for Michelle. And
what a dreadful week for the Iron Dames programme, because they also had to pull their entry in the Road to Le Mans races because Vanina X is not well enough to race either. So that was late last week, and then on Sunday, then everything changed as well for Michelle Gatting. And for Sarah Bovey, who was expecting to be here as an advisor. Little looping spin for the 150 Ferrari.
Castadio Toledo, Brazilian driver, aboard that car. And I don't think he can get that out, can he?
No. Oh,
it might be lucky.
Yes, go on. He's trying to spin the wheels and dig the car out, but also can't just get traction because it'll throw him across the road in front of fast-moving traffic. So he's got a double jeopardy here. He's on our side of the car, probably can't see the traffic coming, and is trying to dig himself out. I do feel this might have to be slow zoney.
Yeah.
I think that's going to need a Manitou.
Well, the good part is there's a good sight line to the car. The bad part is the nearest intervention is quite a distance away from the car.
It'll be across the track, I think, that they'll come from. But
we have to go and help the driver. We are going to activate slow zone 1 at 14:40 in 35 seconds. We're activating slow zone 1. 30 seconds to deploy slow zone 1. 20 seconds to activate slow zone 1. We will activate slow zone 1 in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Slow zone 1 is now active. Slow zone 1 is now active.
And there'll be a lot of people thinking, well, what is a slow zone at this stage? Something that can be used on any World Endurance Championship circuit, but usually a full course yellow suffices because it's a shorter track. We just hear from that car, Toledo.
I need someone to just a meter. Otherwise, we burn the clutch. So please watch out. Stay with the engine off and wait to be pulled out. Okay?
Yeah, it was the right advice, wasn't it? Because, like they said, you don't want to burn the clutch out, so you know you can't get back onto the track. The lip of the tarmac actually was the final straw, wasn't it? That the car couldn't get over. It was working its way towards the track until that point, but as soon as it hit that lip of tarmac, that halted progress. But so the slow zone that we have here, we have multiple slow zones around this 13.8 kilometer circuit, and it's good for the drivers to be able to drive at full racing speed around the rest of the track, to not rely on an absolute full course yellow. That one section of the circuit where you do treat it like a full course yellow.
Well, at this point, Martin Haven would be normally leaving us to have a refreshing cup of tea, but since he's forgotten the tea bags again, we're going to be joined by, I'm delighted to say, back with us for the 24 Hours of Le Mans in 2025. David Addison, welcome back.
Thank you, Graham.
Okay.
Good to be back.
The manager of car 150, once the marshals release the car, please ask the driver to zigzag on driver's left on the apron so that the gravel doesn't come to the track. Please ask the driver to zigzag outside of the track to leave the gravel out of the track.
Sage advice.
Is he going to do that? think he zigged, he didn't zag.
Yeah, so a slow course yellow at the moment. So we have got our systems back online just about. We have brilliant news. Driver Tracker is not just frozen for you, it is also frozen on our secondary screen up here in the commentary box. The World Endurance timing monitors have had an absolute paddy, but we've been able to fix them and tidy things up over the past 20 odd minutes of waiting around, so that's not too bad. But slow zone is out, and let's check in with our team at Radio Le Mans.
So back to a safe position together with the lifting vehicle as well. And all of these cars, certainly the tin tops, the GT cars, have these clever lifting positions that have been measured on the length of the car, so that the pivot is more or less perfect, depending on whether they're front, mid or rear engined, and therefore extraction, Ryan, is very, very quick these days from a gravel trap.
And the crews around the track, they've been trained on that as well to make sure they handle this in the right way. That can make or break your race when we come to the race. If you should end up off track, if the recovery isn't done smoothly or with enough care, you could end up incurring some damage, and that's really not what anyone would like to see. So these crews have been trained on that. They do their best to make sure that everything is done with the safety of the driver and the car in mind, and consequently it seems like it gets better and better each year.
Yeah, as safety is obviously the bottom line, but speed as well, if we can have that as the secondary note, if you like. Notice that the BMW, the way the sun is shining, almost gives it the impression that, well, there are actually markings on those tyres. I thought that was, no, it's shade. I thought it was. Okay, when you start double guessing yourself. But there are no intermediate tyres allowed in the GT category. And the way that Goodyear Eagle was appearing in the wheel arch of 46 BMW, it looked like there were almost strakes or small amounts of tread within it, but it is just the grille nature of the top of the wheel arch. Top of wheel arches on prototypes are now very cleverly designed with a huge hole, a sort of square hole to allow the air to escape were a car to get sideways, because we've had some terrible moments at this particular race over the last 30, 40, maybe more years of cars actually getting air underneath them and they take off. So the dorsal fin on the back of a prototype now and those holes on the top of a wheel arch are there in order to keep the car grounded for as long as possible. And something as simple as that does tend to work a treat, we've found.
Very clever piece of engineering, no doubt about it.
I don't understand the science, to be honest, but when a car, I mean, it's obviously a car is not designed to be going sideways, but sometimes it can spin at great speed. Also, I haven't fully interrogated where these new bits of asphalt have been laid, but I do know that the route towards Porsche Curves is much grippier now. However, when you exit that first route into Porsche Curves, which is precisely what Ye Fei's just done, some drivers have said there's a bit of a drop-off in the grip levels from the new asphalt to the older stuff. But exit of Arnage into Porsche Curves, very, very grippy indeed now, and a great viewpoint to drivers left, which we think is open to most people in actual fact. It used to be private campsite area, but to be able to witness cars at frightening speed coming into Porsche Curves, you need to try and do that if you're here this weekend.
To your point about the repave that took place ahead of this year's race, my understanding is that from Tertre Rouge to the first Mulsanne chicane, that's been repaved since last year, as well as the section from Arnage to the Porsche Curves, which you mentioned as well. I think those are the two areas that have been topped off ahead of this 2025 edition.
Yeah, and it's always difficult when they do that to kind of... I always read the press release and see what the drivers say, and they always have something to say about new surfacing, repaving, and I would take a bit of it with a pinch of salt, because I think as much as anything else, it's a psychological thing. You know, you come onto a new bit of road and immediately your kind of senses are a bit more aware and you're a bit more careful, and all of a sudden you may sense things that aren't there. But I mean, you do it when you're driving on the road, don't you? You sort of come across a nice new bit of asphalt and you think, oh yeah, this is much better. Oh no, it's rougher than the old road. But you know, the old saying, it's the same for everyone, they all have to get on with it. What might be interesting is if we do have any thunderstorms, as some are suggesting we will, the track will suddenly get wet. That's where newer asphalt does tend to get more slippery, or at least take longer to dry out. But I shouldn't talk about the weather because it's going to be dry this weekend. I've been fingers crossed.
It's going to be hot, but sometimes that amount of warmth can generate a flash shower here and there. Orage, indeed.
Yes.
I've heard about it from the families we stay with year in, year out as well. And it's always best to speak to a local. And it always rains at Le Mans is a phrase I've heard a few times too. So
Very well delivered as well.
Thanks.
Yeah,
or by me, or by just...
I was thinking about the original utterance from...
Fair enough, fair enough.
But you did a nice job as well. It's pretty much a facsimile, I would say.
Yeah. I won't take any credit for it.
Remember I was talking about Fred McAvici. He's still out there, still not been into the pits. We're now 48 minutes into the session. Fred has done 12 laps so far in the Alpine. He's currently on his 13th lap. Now, during that time, we had a brief full course yellow, didn't we? Which lasted just 3 minutes, and then one slow zone. So if the Alpine can turn in 13 laps under those circumstances, then it's doing well. My expectation without any neutralisation zones for whatever reason would be 12 laps. So Alpine showing their hand a little bit here as to how economic their car can be.
Yeah, and they showed pretty good energy mileage at Spa as well. That's the great thing about this new hypercar class, is that one or two manufacturers seem to be able to eke out just a little bit more time. The problem is around here, you've got to eke out quite a bit more than a Spa lap, although Spa is one of the longest we visit after Le Mans.
It's true, but the way I always look at these things is even if you do only have the percentage of a lap under full green conditions, if you do get a full course yellow, then very often you can use that to go the extra quarter of a lap or half a lap that you need to in order to be able to go the extra lap on the full stint. And really to push and to optimise those little things, particularly with the state of endurance racing the way it is these days, it's those little things which ultimately very often end up making the difference and allowing you just to open up a bit of a margin at the end of the race.
Frank Pereira's just had a trip through the gravel in the number 48 VDS Panis racing car, and I was trying to work out precisely where that was, Ryan. End of the lap, full chicane again?
I think you're right. There was definitely a high curb in. No, I don't think it was. Now that we get a look at well, I'm not entirely sure. But the important thing is there was a curb involved. That's where it started. He got way up right
to be challenging for a podium. They started so well, and their speed didn't deteriorate through the race. It was just they were on the back foot because of strategy. And the message, the radio message from Jean-Eric Verne, it must haunt the team when he came on and said, 16th, we're now 16th. They were literally running in third place before that round of pit stops, and he couldn't understand it, we couldn't understand it, but you live and learn, and hopefully the car continues here with the same pace that they had in Spa. You should think they should have that speed, because in terms of the circuit layout, it's not too dissimilar. Yes, this is longer, there's more of it, but similar kind of speeds, medium and high-speed corners. People think of Arnage and Mulsanne being slow-speed corners. They're really not. You're running taller ratios sometimes in a category like the LMP2 cars because of the reason you're going so quickly through the whole circuit. So even the four chicane at the end, you can sometimes be in third gear in a hypercar, second gear at worst case scenarios. It looks like it should be first, but the speed's actually quite high throughout the lap here at Le Mans.
All right, still leading the way in this session. Antonio Fuoco with that 3:25.302 is just up pit lane now in the number 50 Ferrari ahead of the two factory Totas. Then the 101 Cadillac is fourth quickest right now. RRM Sport, Patrick Billet still leads in LMP2 from now Nick Yellerly in the 43 Inter-European competition. Orica with the TDS number 29 car, Clem Novalak at the wheel of that car. In LMGT3, Lexus to the front, it's Jack Hawksworth in the 78 Koenigsegg SP RCF. ahead of the 54 Vistray, of course, of Ferrari, and the 27 Heart of Racing Aston Martin, which has led this session in the hands of Mathieu Drudy, drops back now to third.
Yeah, Mathieu Drudy, Spa 24-hour winner last year, wasn't he, for Aston Martin?
In dramatic circumstances with Ferrari. What a heartbreaker it was for them.
To come into the pit lane with just over an hour to go and find a car that had expired, and it was between marshals posts within the pit lane, so nobody could get to it. Yes, there was a suggestion afterwards the pit lane could have been closed, but, you know, in that split second, and I don't think it was even picked up on a race control CCTV camera. It really was heartbreaking, as you say. Right, prepare to be stunned. Kevin Estre is being put on board number 6. Yeah. So, as if it wasn't worth watching anyway, this car. Certainly will be now.
Plugged in like a software update, isn't it?
And replacement front of the car. Right, out it goes.
Yeah, they sometimes put the replacement front end on just to make sure that you have the same aero qualities and numbers coming from different noses.
Okay.
So you don't want any disparity between that or change of aero, and you don't want to change your car balance. If you have some damage in the heat of the moment, you throw another front end on, and just through, it's not set up at the front obviously, but it's just through manufacturing processes. Sometimes you see subtle differences between the aero loads, and it can shift your air balance forwards or backwards, and it's a nightmare to try and juggle that. So they just go through making sure. You might see one new nose come off, it looks like perfectly well, for another one to go on, and that's what they're
just
usually
minus the difference. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
you want to find out those differences now.
Sure.
When you're in the race and you go, hang on a minute, our aero balance has shifted by 0.5% to the front. I can't hang on to the rear of the car anymore.
So would you have, for example, a daytime nose and a nighttime nose, and is it not quite as straightforward as that?
No, ideally you'd want them all to be exactly the same.
Right.
So that it's one less variable coming your way if you're facing that situation.
Just a quick moment there. That's we've got Molina aboard the number 50 car, but he got into the car before that car was wheeled back into the garage. So maybe a minor setup change underway for the 50. It's Antonio Fuoco brought the car in.
And the Lexus doing a good job thus far, isn't it? You were saying, Graham, Jack Hawksworth quickest so far in LM GT3, and he goes over the timing line once again. So putting the laps in.
They got their best race result of the season here last year. It was a traumatic year as they learned the platform. It's an older spec GT3 car. You know more than most, David, the quality and the depth of the Akonis ASP team. Years and years of fantastic success with Mercedes-AMG. A huge call from Jerome Policon and his backers to make the move to the World Endurance Championship and throw everything in with the Lexus brand.
Yeah, because as you say, they've had so much success globally with Mercedes. They still have a GT2 car, for example, but that's pure customer racing. Therefore, yes, Jerome Policon must see the future in Lexus, but it's taking a long time really to build up to that. Jack Hawksworth kind of super subbing again, isn't he, with Ben Barnicoat on the sidelines after his accident, but it's good to have Jack in the car, that's for sure.
It is, he's going very well, and by the way, that's another of our endurance racing family, I'm sure, is watching in and listening in. Ben, we know you're close to final recovery and we'll be back soon in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Wish you were here, I'm sure you do too. So we'll see you back in the WEC very shortly.
He's probably been on the terraces at Formula 1 stock car events, though, because that's Ben Barnicoat's other great passion.
Is it really?
Yes, you randomly find him at a Formula 1 stock car meeting. And he has raced them as well a long time ago. Right, booming down the Mulsanne then. Jack Hawksworth is your chauffeur. Just let's listen to a great noise for a moment.
Yeah, so this is in the second chicane after the Mulsanne straight, and then you rejoin, use a bit of that curve on the left-hand side, let the car run out all the way to the right over that dotted white line, and then you're flat again. You've got the throttle graphic on the right-hand side, and how much fuel you've got left on the GT3 cars, of course, it is just fuel where the energy bar is, and the hypercar is the mix between the electrical energy and the fuel. So the hypercar goes shooting past down towards the Mulsanne corner.
We saw that bit of debris, by the way, and as he left the second chicane, driver's right, it's been flagged up on our timing screens. We'll wait and see whether or not they regard that as serious enough for any intervention.
On your way out of Mulsanne, you see the speed creeping up on the left-hand side, 5th gear, full throttle into 6, ease the car around the next right-hand side. You'll be looking into the mirrors as well, seeing if there are any more hypercars bearing down on you at this point. And then you've got Indianapolis coming up. Ease the car into the right, brake, get as straight as you can before the left is cambered slightly to the left, and then on power as early as you can. As Andrea Lotterer watches on. His first venture into the world of LMP2 this weekend.
I find it utterly astonishing, but he never raced. It's really unbeatable. He's behind the Genesis Magma Racing effort. The show car is here for their new GMR 001 that will debut in the World Endurance Championship next season. And it's just a few weeks before track testing begins with their first test car.
So Jamie Chadwick then, W Series champion at the wheel of the car, having done impressive things in single-seater racing in America, but now coming into a sports car future.
And comes here, David, on the back of, what, a class win and an overall win in the European Le Mans Series.
Yes.
Jamie with Mathis Jobert and Danny Ucadella, who's on GT racing duties for the Le Mans 24 Hours.
We've got a full course yellow coming because of that debris, so we're about half a minute away from it. So in a moment, Eduardo Freitas will start to warn the teams. The countdown will start for that full course yellow. Jamie Chadwick then going up through the chicane. 27-year-old, started off in Ginetta Racing, but has had quite a career in the last few years.
And he's thoroughly enjoying this LMP2.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I think she feels future. Part of this Genesis Magma Racing trajectory program. It's about looking at whether or not there might be future talents, and they're finding it. The full course yellow now should be quite a short one for what should be the removal of that debris at the exit of the second chicane on the Hurrier. But whether or not there's any other clear-up that's required.
Interesting they decided to go for a full course yellow than a slow zone for that one. Because we only really ever see slow zones, and in the race it's rare to see at this circuit a full course yellow. It's mostly slow zones they use.
Suggests that he probably wants some clear up elsewhere. We've seen a couple of cars through gravel. They may be intervening at different parts of the circuit, so we might see some of those messages now.
Is there also in WEC, because it happens in other sports car championships, for
At MP 17 and 18 now, please bear right, we're picking up some debris left outside of the track.
So someone's collected that debris because it was on the right before.
Sorry, yeah, my question was going to be, it might not actually be that vital, but you do a full course yellow almost like a test for the drivers, just to get them used to it.
Oh, we did it throughout test day.
Yeah.
The teams were pre-briefed at the very start of the test, the first opportunity, whether or not an incident required it, they would do a full safety car intervention to allow the teams to practice what is a revised process.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see people making mistakes. The best way not to make mistakes is practice.
Exactly,
and, yes, absolutely. We often see that in free practice sessions at WEC.
Fine. It does illustrate, again, just how teams have to cope with as well. I mean, they're having conversations with the drivers, they're having to process all those messages as well, and there's a huge amount of information in the modern era of Le Mans compared to years ago.
Yeah, it gives us a lot more to sort through and talk about. You know, I think all three of us in this commentary team thrive on just having a little bit more data, a little bit more insight, and in particular, and Davis, I know, absolutely lives for it.
Yeah, but what happened to your good old signalling pits? I mean, it's taken away that fun at the Mulsanne corner.
Dear me, what with the old field telephones.
That's right, for our older viewers.
Slate boards.
Yeah. Right, on board then with Antonio Giovinazzi, number 51, Ferrari, 7th in the times at the moment, and he's found some traffic.
Yeah, interesting little trio here, isn't it? It's one of the Cadillac Hertz Team Jota cars, then the 51 Ferrari, and one of the Peugeots.
Well, that's an interesting one just then, because I thought coming out of Arnage there, I might have seen the next slow board randomly on, and that's why they didn't overtake each other. So that's now we see Giovinazzi overtake just before karting corner and Porsche curves. But before that, when they were catching the Jota, board. I think it might have been a bit of a messy. Just on the right-hand side, I saw an orange board flashing. That's usually to signify the next slow, and in that area, you're not allowed to overtake.
Right, well, Giovinazzi pits. Alessandro Pierguidi ready to take over. Winner 2 years ago. With Giovinazzi, James Collado, the third driver of 51.
And lest we forget, leads us in the World Championship, and it's a big points scoring race for the FI World Endurance Championship. Let's go down and have a quick chat with Bruce Rani, who's patrolling pit lane, David, and find out a little bit more about what's going on with 51.
Yeah, car 51 spent a little bit of time in the garage a while ago. They had to change a fuel pressure sensor, but it seems to be okay and running now. But they'll for sure have a look at it again.
Okay, thanks, Bruce. So more info from the pits. Teams going through their run plan. Drivers being cycled through as well. Still very, very warm outside. Those onboard pictures we had a little while ago just illustrating what a clear day it is, barely a cloud in the sky, but really hot for the teams, especially in the glare of it, without much shade down on the pit lane at the moment. Number 7 is in then. Nick de Vries brought the car in. He shares with Kamuna Kobayashi and Mike Conway, of course. Mike Conway in the car, BRDC badge on his helmet, and Mike Conway gets settled, ready to go back out with an hour and 56 on the clock.
It's another thing that they've got in common with us here in the commentary booth, isn't it, David? You know, they're in the full glare of the sunshine. We're not here, but they can't, like us, they can't have a refreshing cup of tea.
No, no, for myriad reasons in their case, but yeah, we have one reason, and it's called Haven. Who at this very moment, I can assure you, is ordering it online. Right, just briefly, Graham, explain that little number panel we saw. It's not the competition number. You've got an electronic display at the back which shows different things on track to pit lane.
It does. It's on the hypercars and the LMGT3s, not on the LMP2s, which are still running the old position lights. There are basically information panels. We'll come back to you with that in just a moment or two.
Yeah, what a great time it is to have Mercedes back. Brenton, can I just start with saying thank you for bringing Mercedes back to Le Mans. You're representing quite a brand there.
Yeah, it's quite nice. I mean, we have a bit of work to do to make the car fast enough, but it's nice to be here.
So where do you feel you're lacking at the moment?
Everywhere.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have much grip. The balances are very nice. So, I mean, it's hard coming here a year after everyone else. We're definitely on the back foot. And we've lost some pace since the test day, so we need to work that out.
And I see a laptop being plugged in on a long lead, data acquisition going on there. Is this going to be an analytical job all the way through to restart?
Yeah, like I said, we're a long way behind on the power delivery and everything that the manufacturers have tuned from last year. So we're still making changes and doing some interesting things when we're driving to collate data, but it makes it quite difficult to learn the track. So it's a balance of making sure the car's fast enough and then giving us laps. So yeah, we need to keep tuning.
And when you say fast enough, you're talking about over a distance of 24 hours. You're not interested in qualifying at this stage, I would think.
I mean, qualifying is difficult because it's the AM, but in general, we need to find more pace just to be consistent in the race. So yes, it's over one lap, but we're trying to translate that over a distance. So we've got 3 cars. We'll look through the data and see what we can find, but it's challenging at the moment.
Heat's been it's been a bit rare at Le Mans in recent years. That heat's becoming a factor. It's certainly forecast to be a hot one this year. Is that going to mount its own separate challenge to you guys, the drivers?
Yeah, maybe not so much from the driver. I think it will play into the strengths of some cars and not others. For sure, it's impacted our balance from the test day, so we need to try and tune that. Normally the Mercedes is good when it's hot, so we'll keep learning and make sure that whatever happens in the race, we have the car in the right window to be able to push the whole time.
Great stuff. Thank you, Brenton. And thanks for coming back to me and running after you out the back. Thanks, Brenton Grove there. Just great to have Mercedes back, isn't it? I mean, all right, it's not in the hypercar class quite yet. It's in the GT3 class, but it's still great to see Mercedes back at Le Mans.
Thank you, Joe, and thanks, Brenton as well. There was a little bit of a delay getting to you there on my part, so he may well have run off sort of just before you were about to start that interview. But we got him back, and great that he can speak briefly there to 91.2 FM Radio Le Mans. I am told by a certain Maxime Martin regarding those 3 Mercedes that they are completely brand new cars for this race. I wondered whether a few people were asking the question, are they the 2 World Endurance Championship cars from Iron Lynx plus maybe the ELMS car? No, entirely brand new chassis. They've got Le Mans specific chassis numbers, and they've actually been painted, those cars, rather than wrapped. So it's a paint mix that has been retrieved from the 1989 overall Le Mans 24-hour winner, the Sauber C9, and they've kind of taken a version of that paint and replicated it perfectly on 3 Mercedes.
Now, those of you with long memories, there's a great irony on that, because the reason originally that Mercedes were silver was because they had no paint, and that Alfred Neubauer, partly, he said the cars weren't ready, we didn't have time to paint them, so they just appeared in the aluminium. So we're now going full circle where they're painting them to look the same colour as Mercedes' original colour was when it was not painted. Oh, I don't.
Yeah.
Such is the irony of these things.
But because there's been 30 years of history, throughout that period of time, it's a paint scheme, if you like, that you instantly recognise, but it's not a design at all.
Well, no, in 70 years, if you want to go back to when Mercedes first appeared as silver cars, German's racing colour was always white. So the fact that they appeared in silver, as I say, we now regard silver as being the colour for Mercedes, the silver arrows, was due to lack of paint. Right.
And not color related, but Mercedes has such a rich and long motorsport history. Last year they were celebrating 130 years of motorsport, and
that's advice to Darren Young in his number 95 McLaren from United Autosports. I was trying to recognise the voice there because that sounded like a driver coach more than an engineer for Darren. I think I might know who it was, but I don't want to say because it could be wrong.
I think I do because I was in the United hospitality unit having lunch a little bit earlier, and it's David Pittard who's been coaching
That's
him.
who I thought it was.
All right.
But I also associate him with coaching other drivers as well, so I didn't want to jump too early.
I don't think David would mind me saying so, and hopefully, David, I got your last name a bit more closer to correct. I was he told me quite politely that the American accent really struggles to put the emphasis on the correct syllable in his last name, so I need to emphasize the pit and less of the art, apparently, to get the pronunciation a bit more close to accurate.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's a work in progress,
but
David.
There are certain words that equally we struggle with either side. If you're the other side of the Atlantic, but we can help to educate one another.
Exactly.
Every step of the way.
And it was all in good fun, and I appreciate it. I'd always rather know so I could say it at least closer to correct moving forward. But to put a bow on the Mercedes discussion, I was talking about 130 years of motorsport that they celebrated last year in 2024. They date it all the way back to the Paris-Rouen race of 1894. There was a Mercedes involved in that race that long ago. Just remarkable.
I always do this at some point. Excuse me. Some point during the race weekend. I'm going to plug a book. There's a book called The Race to the. There's a book called The Race to the Future, which is by a lady called Cassia Sinclair.
That is at the foot of the time, 62nd, but it will get faster, no doubt.
You're going to have to put a euro in the pot because it's United Autosports and not Carriage 59.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, force of habit. United Autosports.
Aboard the number 27 car, the Heart of Racing's Vantage. Who's aboard that car at the moment? That is Ian James back at the wheel. He's a busy boy this week, looking after not only driving duties here, but also top of the shop of the hypercar effort for the Heart of Racing. Really, really important weekend for that squad. And what a great contribution they've made with the help and the assistance and the passion of Gabe Newell in bringing not just these GT efforts, the World Endurance Championship, to all sorts of endurance racing around the world, by the way, as well as IMSA's Championship, and then, of course, enabling us to glory in the wonderful Valkyrie LMH.
American flag, but Ian James, a Brit by birth. It's in the UK. He started racing in single-seaters a long time ago.
Local to me in Epsom. Still, I believe, has a home in the UK.
Right.
This one, you can have a crack at this one. This is the Zingo Sport Tempesta racing car. And I think only for the second year, but not the last year, this is a car that comes to us not through an ACO championship, but through what I'm delighted to say is a renewed partnership with SRO and their fabulous array of GT3 racing.
That's right, they were the Bronze Cup winners in the endurance and the overall championships last year. Rubens Barrichello with his son Eduardo. A very proud dad.
And if there's ever any advice that you'd take from your dad or want to take from your dad, Rubens Barrichello's not a bad dad when it comes to racing dads getting involved and sharing their opinion on what you might or shouldn't be doing out on track. You'd stop and listen, wouldn't you?
I think you would.
For that time.
I think you would. The Augusto Farfus BMW is in the pit lane as well here, and that's the car shared with Timo Bogoslawski and Yasser Shahin, the man that owns the Bend circuit in Australia.
Yeah, his brother's here in the Porsche Challenge race as well, which is second time this season they've shared the same circuit. We saw Sam Shaheen in the supporting Carrera Cup Deutschland, I think it was, at Imola. Good moment, by the way, just to remind you, if you're watching us on the app, as I know lots and lots of you are, you'll already know this, but watching us elsewhere, sign up on FIWC.com, the TV channel there, and amongst the benefits are that you'll get access to full access 3-4 days earlier than you'll get it free on YouTube, so you get to tell your mates what's going to happen before they get the opportunity to see it first. So FIWC.com, sign up free for an account there, and you will get to watch full access and other exclusive content there at your leisure, a little earlier than others.
Debo, just watching Debo there, just on the approach to the Porsche curves, not quite utilising all of the track that it has to give, so definitely got to be using a bit more circuit here. So if you were his team or teammates watching on, you'd be giving that same advice.
Copy. I don't think the tool change you need introduced for the understeer, because the car has full understeer also during the off-brake phase.
So Augusto Farfus giving feedback to the team. They're still trying to give him a car that is good for qualifying effectively, because that will be the next session today.
Yeah, revised livery for that car, somewhat closer to the traditional BMW corporate livery here. Takes out the kind of sandy look of the Bend WRT livery we've seen so far this season, but yeah, they're looking to dial in some changes. Augusto sitting at the wheel of the car. In now comes Jamie Chadwick aboard the 18 car. As I said a little earlier, this car, full season in the European Le Mans Series, battled away, almost took the overall win on the debut for this effort, with 3 drivers, by the way, in that race, none of whom had raced an LMP2 car before, lost out to an LMP2 Pro-Am effort, but still won the class. And then, oh, big trouble here.
That's an Arnlix Mercedes, isn't it? That has got some damage. There's a yellow flag, of course. It's now a double yellow flag, but I fear we might be going for another slow zone or a full course yellow, because that might take a bit of shifting, depending on the extent of the damage, Graham.
Indeed. Bonnet was up on that car as well. Red flag indeed. Yeah. I think he's been in the wall.
Oh, yeah, he's lost it on the exit of the first corner.
Yep, so it's a red flag here, but the Mercedes that comes back to Le Mans for the first time, and that has put out the red flag with 1 hour 44 minutes to go. Big impact, bonnet up, front end smashed in, radiator gone, and the 3-star Silver Arrow is in big trouble. Session suspended, red flag.
But that's a big one, definitely.
No, it was not his outlap, but that's...
No, he wasn't, no.
Not great news for the team.
That's his second big accident of the year. He had a spectacular accident at Bathurst, didn't he, at the start of the season?
I think he had one at Spa as well, in the car that he was called into at late notice. Hopefully, Stephen's still aboard the car. He is still aboard the car.
And 3.5 hours until qualifying starts, for which that car has got to be somehow made ready. You can see the witness marks, Ant.
Yeah, on the right-hand side, just where the safety car or medical car has just driven by, and then gone, looks like, front in to the barrier on the right-hand side.
You'd have felt that's a regular place that catches the unwary out.
Yeah, the problem is, like I say, you're turning and braking at the same time, and there's only so much that the rear of the car can take when you're doing that. And we heard already some drivers talking about brake balance and where they would like the balance to be in the car when you're hitting the brakes. It's a classic one where you're going down through the gears and braking and cornering. And yeah, like you say, Graham, we do see drivers lose it quite often, but mostly on cold tyres, I have to say. But yeah, Nick de Vries watching on is something that you often see in the middle of the night when there's no track temperature left anymore, cold tyres, no tyre blankets in in the World Endurance Championship, and it can catch out even the best drivers out there in the hypercar category.
If we do get to see the issue, let's have a listen to what was going on aboard the car with Stephen Grove.
Coming down the hill, I'm like 6/10 up on the delta, and then onto turn 4. I just lose like 1.2 seconds on the delta. Like, I just can't. Every time I try and go in, I lose the rear. So then I overstop it. Same thing really going into the start of the Porsche curve. It's the same 2 corners. I lose so much time.
I'm not sure that was before Stephen Grove, because that didn't sound very Australian to me.
No, that didn't tie in with the incident we've just seen. That's not that car that we're looking at. But interesting info.
Andrew Gilbert,
regardless.
I think that might have been.
Okay.
In the 60 car. This is, by the way, this is the weighbridge. We're looking there, called in for a couple of quick checks by race officials.
Sure.
If we do get to see that incident again, I do wonder whether or not there might have been another car not dealing with, that just he was dealing with.
Right.
As you said, there's a lot going on, braking and turning at the same time. It's a tricky set of corners. He's not very experienced with this track, and if there was another car where he wanted to put the car, that's where mistakes can happen.
Sometimes if you're being overtaken around the outside of that corner by a hypercar or LMP2, and you see them just flash into the left-hand side, and your full concentration anywhere in the corner that's coming, and suddenly you're put off by a car going around the outside for a lower graded driver, with all due respect, that can be a step too far, and you lose the car that way. But yeah, it looks like we haven't actually got that footage of the, so we can't see the replay. But
well, I mean, they may be just making sure he's okay first. I'm not a racing driver. You're a racing driver at a very professional level. You've driven minis.
Oh, shut up.
But it is about the proportion of your mind that you're taking up with motor function against the other functions. And if actually that moment can overwhelm you, absolutely right. It could just be the one thing that tips the balance, and you make a poor judgment at that moment.
And what Ant was saying about, possibly being overtaken, you don't have to be that far offline suddenly for grip to change, and off you go.
Also, just how smooth you are or not with the steering wheel in that moment when the car's right on the threshold of grip. If you're too digital in your inputs, you're just a bit too savage on the steering wheel, that's the thing that's going to spin the car around.
Sure.
So it's a balancing act a lot around that corner, and it doesn't take much to get the car upset.
Now, the back of it looks okay, so hopefully there wasn't another car involved in terms of contact. There may have been to put him off his stride. Red flag conditions here at Le Mans. It's free practice 1. There's an hour and 39 minutes to go. Because it's free practice, the clock carries on ticking. So, again, another frustration for the teams is this is eating into the time they had, and therefore they're not able to do all the run plan, because now they're confined to the pit lane for another probably 5 minutes or so at the very least. They're not getting the data they want.
It's funny. In the modern day and age of motorsport, it's not as detrimental as it would have been in the past, because they've got so many simulations to work with before even coming to the circuit these days. The drivers are in the driver-in-loop simulators, so they are fully aware of the car's capabilities, especially in the hypercar category. They know which gears to be taking, they know how the car's balance is likely to be. And then the teams have got so much information before even turning a wheel on circuit. So, yes, it's a bit of an annoyance, and you can't fine-tune the car to your liking. The platform you start with in this day and age of motorsport is so much more advantageous than it was in the past, that moments like this with the red flag, it's not as big a hindrance as it once was. And a lot of the times I came out of the practice session even before this race week, and I thought, right, let's crack on. I'm good to do qualifying now. So you just feel so prepared, and especially as Le Mans comes in the middle of the championship.
Yeah.
For a lot of these drivers, or most of them, it's a car that you're so tuned into that it doesn't take long for these brilliant drivers to get up to speed and to feel like they're ready to do it. It's less so for the bronze drivers, of course, in the LMGT3 category. They're the ones, if any, need the most time or more time to get up to speed and to iron out, moments like this. Yeah, exactly.
But you've got 35 rookies in the entry. They will all want as many laps as they can get.
Well, they can be rookies to this circuit, but maybe not rookies to the car.
No, sure.
Because they might be racing in IMSA and elsewhere, and very capable drivers themselves. But yeah, in terms of a bronze driver and a rookie, then they're the ones really going to need the most time possible. But then it's the responsibility of the car crew that surround you in that moment to bring you on the best they can, to be wise for the engineering team, to know when to put you into the car. Quite often, for the bronze drivers, it's good to send them out straight away because everybody else is kind of feeling their way in as well in an FP1 session, not throw them in at the end when everyone's starting to focus more towards qualifying, say. It's little things like that that can make or break your day.
Antares Al, just on a slightly separate note, was saying to me earlier on that he was a bit wary of all these fast cars come past him during the test, and he was having his lunch, and Kevin Estra wandered over and said, you know, how are you getting on, how are you finding it? And Antares Al said, well, it's a bit scary when the hypercars come past. And Kevin put his plate down, put his cutlery down, and just started to explain how he and how the other hypercar drivers would treat the slower cars and explain what he ought to be doing. And Antares said the whole room just fell silent. You know, here's this guy from, okay, a Porsche stable, but a completely different part of the operation, going through all of this and putting him at his ease. There's so much to learn, though.
But number one, that's about the character of Kevin Estra. Number two, that's about both drivers, it being an advantage to do exactly that. And by the way, I should tell you, Antares not named after the tram stop here. It's completely separate reason behind it. He was delighted to have that explained as to what Antares actually meant and all the signs he'd seen. He thought it was a rather major fan club. But that makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Because if Antares knows what to expect, then he knows to do it.
I mean, he did say that only explains what the Porsche hypercars are going to do to him. It doesn't explain the Cadillac or anything else.
Ruthless.
Exactly, but it does put him at his ease a bit. Right, the session, as you look at Alex Malikin, is going to resume on short call. Andrew Gilbert's under investigation now, number 60, for speeding in the pit lane in one of the other Iron Lynx Mercedes.
They've got a couple of those underway. And
we're going green at 15:25.00. We're going green in 15 seconds.
So Eduardo Freitas keen to get everybody back on track as swiftly as. Yeah, just to make the point again about Iron Lynx, they've got these three-pointed styles back on track. First time Mercedes as a brand has really been here since 1999.
2, 1. Session is back to green.
Countdown continues, completed, green flag wave. We're back in business, and green lights on at the end of the pit lane. We've been joined in the booth by Le Mans class winner, Aston Martin hero, Johnny Adam. And I know you'd rather be out there, but welcome to the booth and welcome to what should be a really great race this year.
Yeah, looking forward to watching the race. It's a quite important practice session for quite a few people getting back into. Obviously having a couple of days off, Monday and Tuesday. They'll be running through a plan, head towards qualifying. So I'm sure they've got a plan to follow and they're going through that just now.
So we've got everybody back on track. LMP2 as well as Hypercar and LMGT3 battles to keep an eye on. Number 9 there, which is the Jonas Reed, Mathieu Capietto, Rashid Degeris entry out of LMP2. And that is another of the Iron Lynx entries with Proton assistance, Graham.
Yeah, that car has taken a race win in the European Le Mans Series last season. Has had pace but no luck so far this season. But with switching out Matteo Caroli, who then lost his drive, poor lad, potentially named against 2, and doesn't get a drive at all. Rashid Degeris is going to add some real pace, particularly I think for qualifying, where he's already a pole position setter this season.
Well,
true.
There's quite a lot of financial penalties associated, amongst other things, with pit lane speed limits. The exceeding pit lane speed limits. 100 euros per kilometre per hour we worked out on test day, didn't we?
Yeah. So once you get north of about 70 kph, it can become very costly very quickly. But yeah, there were 1 or 2 that were just 100 euros. And they smacked to us, Paul, that Max, it was just trying to set your pit lane speed limiter, and it's worth 100, 200 odd euros to pay just to make sure you are bang on the limit, because those are the sort of things we're playing with here, Ryan. You've got to be as quick as you can in the pit stop without going above 60 kph.
The margins are fine, aren't they? And I think it was maybe earlier today on Midweek Motorsport, but the discussion came up about how maybe today more than ever, at least in recent times, those small margins mean so much, because in the top class, you're not talking about competition against 2 or 3 or 4 other cars in your class. And if you lose a spot or 2, well, you know, you have a chance to fight back. Now you make a mistake in the pits, and especially when everyone's bunched together, you could lose a half a dozen to a dozen spots in the pit lane so easily. That's much more difficult to overcome than we've seen in years past.
Yeah, it is a different world these days, and I think for two reasons. One is precisely what Ryan's just saying about the margins being so close. But on the other hand, against that is there is a tendency to, and I'll have to choose my words carefully, but there is a tendency to use safety cars a lot more these days than in years gone by, which has the effect of closing everything up. So you may think, oh, you know, you've lost maybe 20, 30 seconds. You can close the gap back up again. But because there's so many of these wretched hypercars taking part in the race these days, I don't mean that in any way disparagingly, it's great that we have so many hypercars. But because there's so many of them, all of a sudden track position becomes the key thing. And in losing those 20 seconds, you're actually losing 5, 10 places. You know, the unique situation about last year's race, 9 cars finishing on the lead lap. That's absolutely unprecedented. Most we've ever had before is 2 cars finishing on the lead lap. The lead margin last year, okay, it wasn't the smallest, but 14 seconds is still close to what we've had in terms of competitive finishes. And so, yes, you do have to be careful. You can get time back with a safety car. That has to go into the strategy mix. But more importantly, as I say, is that track position. You don't want to get stuck behind a slower car, because that can suddenly turn the 20 seconds into 30 seconds if you can't get by the car in front.
Ryo Hirakawa is absolutely chucking the number 8 Toyota around the racetrack at the moment, as Michel Gatting, unfortunately this weekend, just a spectator after an incident that happened at the end of test day, breaking 2 very small bones, step out of that driver lineup, and Sarah Bovey replacing the Danish driver. Instead, Sarah used to race with Michel Gatting as the bronze within that lineup. TDS Team Radio.
29, telling Rodrigo Salas where he's needing to try and pick up a little bit of time. Right, an hour and a half of this first session to go. And the heart of racing, Aston, will drop down in a moment and rejoin the session. That, at the moment, is third in class. Ian James doing a good job in that to kick off the day.
Yeah, Ian's a very good am, you know, a lot of experience from racing in IMSA, etc., and knows the car very well. I think this maybe his 4th or 5th season with this package, really. And that's what you need round here. You need people like Ian with experience, because it is a 24-hour race, but experience will get you to the end, hopefully keeping the car all intact all the way through. And his pace has always been good. You know, he won races last year in WEC and was always very strong at places like Kota. So, and they were very unfortunate last year. I think they had the pace to definitely be on the podium, and very unfortunate of how it finished for them. So I'm sure they've got one goal in mind, and that is to get back to the front this year.
Right.
We've got an incident under investigation. It happened well over half an hour ago, 14:54, Marshall's Post 18, between Antonio Felix da Costa, the 183 Orica, and Francois Heriot in the 21 Vista F Corsa Ferrari. Don't know what that was, but under investigation, as I say, over half an hour ago.
Yeah, Da Costa was being looked at for speeding in the pit lane as well, so he's had a busy time in this session.
Welcome back, Felix.
Yeah, quite, exactly. Good to have him back, that's for sure. Right, so for the moment, we've got an Iron Lynx car stopped and being worked on. This frantic turnaround time now to try and get that ready for qualifying. I suppose they could pull mechanics if they needed from other entries to work on that car, just do whatever is needed to get it out there.
I think there's no lack of Mercedes-AMG customer racing support here. This is a very big return for them. They're making that very clear. The back of the Iron Lynx pits is, if you've not seen it, utterly spectacular. There is a 3-story, pretty much, video screen showing all sorts of wonders from their current race efforts to some of the heritage races behind it. Ryan Hardwick there. Give him a wave.
Yeah, it was Ryan that had that spin on his outlet, wasn't it? Straight out of the pits, first spin of race weekend, but hopefully that's got it out of his system. Right, on board now with Ben Keating, who is a very rapid AM, and Johnny, just talk us around the section of the circuit we're on.
Yeah, heading towards Indianapolis, obviously picking up a little bit of a toe from his teammate, but yeah, quite an important part of the lap. Bravery is needed on the right part here, should be 5th gear, and then it does tighten up. A lot of camber to the left here, but then we're going to Arnage, where the grip level is obviously improved over the years, but it was always one of the least grippiest corners on the circuit. 1st gear, important to get a good exit. Your run then from all the way here, all the way to Porsche is very important on lap time. So this is us in sector 3. It's a big sector. It's part of the big part of the lap. So yeah, the key is for him. I think he's just trying to find a bit of space. He'll be on the radio to the team, speaking about track position and ultimately trying to get a clear lap for the lap coming up.
That's the Lexus that's gone storming past with Arnold Robin now at the wheel. Custodio Toledo, who'd had a spin into the gravel earlier on, he's now being warned about track limits. So we carry on with Ben Keating.
Right, then, so we have fuel for 6 laps. We have fuel for 6 laps. We have up to that much to get a read on this. If you feel like we're in a better window, I'd recommend that we go to the new tire next.
Okay, so Ben Keating being told the plan and also being able to put his input into this decision.
Yeah, I think obviously it might be a warm-up for Ben to get his sort of eye in if he hasn't been out so far, and just to check the balance for him, make sure he's happy before he hopefully uses the best from the new tyre. And it's great preparation for him for later for qualifying, because ultimately these guys are doing the first part of Hyperpole, so
yes,
you know, ideally the last time these guys should drive should be on a new tyre, low fuel, and get that feeling, you know.
And they're your LMGT3 championship leaders. I mean, they've had a good run so far this year in the championship.
Brilliant run from the 3 of them at Qatar. They've struggled a little since. Straight line speed's been an issue for the Corvettes, but for Ben Keating himself, it's 11th Le Mans in 10 different cars. The only car he's ever driven twice, the car I think he won in the Aston Martin, so it's the only car he's ever driven twice. It's also, I think, the only one of those cars, these GT cars, he doesn't own. And the main reason for that is because famously Ben is an automobile dealer, very successful in Texas, and he doesn't have an Aston Martin franchise, something you might want to get the guys onto.
Yeah, there's a commission in it for you, Johnny, if you get it done. Right, so riding with Ben Keating then, heading down the Mulsanne Straight, back on public roads, of course, and a different feel to the racetrack here.
Yeah, definitely. The track obviously is you know, it's pretty gripped up so far this weekend, but definitely the grip level has changed here. He'll be trying to have a reference point. But nowadays with LMGT3 with ABS, the feeling is a lot of these cars can brake so much deeper and use the ABS all the way into the slower speed corners like the 2 chicanes, so it makes it trickier for the hypercars to get by, because these guys brake so deep, even the bronzes, and yeah, it's all about just getting references down that straight.
Quick updates for the overall times. Second quickest now. The time that's just gone in, we said they'd plug Kevin Estre in, boy have they. 3:25.568 goes second quickest. Separates now the Ferrari 50, leading this session from the first of the Totas, and the second factory Porsche has split the Totas. So it's Ferrari, Porsche, Toyota, Cadillac, WTR, now the top 6.
You're right about Kevin Estre going second. Just remember, the circuit's over 13 kilometres long, and the gap between him and Miguel Molina, or Antonio Fuoco, who did the time to be fastest, is 0.2 of a second, around 13 kilometres.
With a slow zone coming, by the way, a reason for which we've not yet seen. But we may get an input on that one, but that's coming in about 30 seconds' time.
Bernardo Sousa you're looking at in the number 77 Ford Mustang. Lots of Ford Mustang presence this weekend because there's a support race for Mustangs. That's one of the Proton competition cars that he shares with the Benz, Tuck and Barker.
Yeah, 33 of the Dark Horse R Mustangs in their support races here. The first time we've seen that as the one make support race here, in addition to, of course, Road to Le Mans. It's also the French Porsche Challenge, I think they call
Sprint
it.
Challenge.
Sprint Challenge.
Yeah, it's not Carrera Cup, it's a sort of catch-all.
It is.
But you've got a few British drivers and Americans and Australians even in that. It's a good grid. Right, steering wheel change. Why?
A lot of teams do this as a procedure, just to double check, so they maybe have 2 or 3 steering wheels within the team, and they'll all been serviced and maintained, so yeah, just to double check they're all working okay, and yeah, hopefully there's no issue there.
Right, got a yellow flag out at Marshall's post 20. Something else the teams are going to have to factor in as you look into the pit lane at number 20 BMW. René Rast brought the car in. It's the Rast, Frins, Sheldon van der Linde entry.
Yeah, slow zone starting at Marshall's post 21, which is that is Mulsanne corner.
Okay, so we'll try and unravel who and what and why as number 4 Porsche gets set to be released again. That is the Felipe Nasr, Nick Tandy, Pascal Wehrlein entry. That Pascal Wehrlein coming into the championship means that every Formula E champion is now raced in World Endurance, doesn't it?
Is that right? That's a cracking stat.
So, yeah.
That's a cracking stat. We're almost at the point where just about everything that's raced in the WEC is raced in Formula E. It's been a good... But the truth of the matter is, we talked a little earlier about
red
the
flags
opportunities
out,
for pro
red flag.
drivers in this amazing period, not just in prototype racing, but in GT racing as well. It's got to be said, when the pickings were fairly slim...
Red flag, Graham, sorry to interrupt you.
All right, so whatever's happened at Mulsanne, if that's where it is, that's requiring an intervention into this session. Formula E has been a huge bonus to keeping professional drivers in the sport and employed at a high level.
Right, red flag, session stopped for the second time. Clock carries on ticking.
It does indeed. No clue as to what's going on at the moment. We had that yellow, slow zone at Mulsanne corner, so one would guess, unless we've had a second incident somewhere that we've not yet seen or had flagged up to us, that they've determined that further intervention is required.
Everybody being told they can pick up the pace to get back to the pit lane because they want to have everybody in as rapidly as, so they can restart the session as rapidly as. You don't want people spread out around 13 kilometres of circuit for too long.
I'm not seeing any other car stationary on circuit, so I do wonder whether or not someone's been through the gravel trap at Mulsanne corner, and that might be part of the problem. There might well be a bit of a mess to be cleared up. Is one of those places that you're carrying so much speed. If you carry on through there, it's pretty much a hazard zone on the exit of Mulsanne corner. You don't want in your nice sticky tyres is a load of gravel, Johnny.
Yeah, and it's quite a deep gravel trap there at Mulsanne as well, so it probably needs a bit of sweeping up. I think tricky corner, to be fair. You approach such a big VMAX, and it is smoother nowadays with the resurfacing down there, but yeah, it's easy to get it wrong because a lot of these cars come from 6th gear all the way down to 1st gear, so mistakes can happen on the braking.
And one or two teams, as you can see, sending drivers to the end of the pit lane, ready to go back out. Does this tell us anything? Well, it tells us that Porsches have been in strife long before Mulsanne corner. That's quite a wild old ride for the Manthey car, isn't it? That was number 90 going off the road. The Antares Au, Lurk Hertog, Klaus Battler car. And this is how it looked from behind. Whoa. Good save.
Yeah, easy to be done, to be fair, especially if you have traffic behind. But yeah, with the camber switch all the way through there, the exit actually is quite blind. If you walk the circuit, you can't physically see the exit, so it's easy to be caught out, unfortunately, there. But it seems like it was a good save, and he's continued on. So,
yeah, assuming that was the lap of the red flag, it was Lurk Hartog at the wheel, who is very much a Porsche specialist, whether it was in one make or GT events. 38, you can see, which is the El Bamba, Sebastian Bourdais, Jenson Button. Cadillac, Jensen's 4th Le Mans and 4th different manufacturer as well.
It's quite impressive with the estuary time because it, this afternoon seems as though it's getting warmer, so track temperature's coming up. So, obviously the others done their time quite early on in this session. So, yeah, to put a good time down and, to see the top 4 separate already by only 4 tenths. It shows hopefully how close qualifying is going to be later.
Yeah, exactly. And he's one of that modern generation that you can drop into a hypercar or a GT3 car and he can still deliver. It doesn't seem to take him any time to adapt from one to the other.
He's very, very good in terms of his adaptability, his way of just turning the tyre on. You saw last year, especially in qualifying, how special he was.
All right, Sebastian Bourdais at the wheel of number 38. He makes his way to pit exit. Let's listen in.
Okay, Seb, the deal here is we could either do into setup change or go out and queue at the pit exit to try to play with settings to try to fix this locking. Then you would have a clearer track at the restart. What do you think?
I think we have plenty of systems to play with, but I think the car is poor in mechanical front grip, off brakes, and late braking.
So that's Sebastian Bourdais discussing live with the team. We are under red flag conditions for the second time then in this first free practice session of the day. Into the pit lane arrives number 12. That's the Will Stevens, Norman Nato, Alex Lynn, Hertz Cadillac. And the clock ticks on down, 1 hour and 18 minutes and counting, still under red flag conditions. Welcome back to the Le Mans commentary booth, Peter Dumbreck. Peter, bit of a frustration this session, 2 red flags, and I suppose they got into a bit of a rhythm at the start, but not of late.
Yeah, and we don't actually have a reason for this red flag, do we? So a little bit more information would be great, but yeah, it's never easy. It's a long session though, they've got a bit more time, and the qualifying session coming up later on as well. So and plus they've had all that running during the test day. I imagine they're all pretty well dialed in now.
Sure. Makes a lot more sense as well these days, doesn't it? Having that test weekend just before race weekend rather than a month before, and all the costs of having to come and then go back and then rebuild everything when you return for race weekend.
And it's, you know, all the drivers, everything's fresh in their heads, and they've got their lines sorted out. They know what the track's like. It's gradually going to grip up more and more. No rain in sight yet, but yeah, I think it's going to be, so far, a good weekend ahead.
Yeah, and that test weekend also, of course, now enables the ACO to make more of a sort of festival out of it, a fortnight of camping and action on track. Yesterday, although the cars weren't on track, there was a pit stop challenge that was keeping the fans occupied. So what with that, with all the concerts, there's a lot more than just a 24-hour race. Go back not that many years, you get one support race and that was about it. But now it's a proper festival. There were races even last week for the Ligiers during the test weekend. Session will resume on short call, so we're not that far off getting things back underway. And there's quite a long queue of cars at the end of the pit lane. Drivers, teams eager to get back out.
Yeah, I think, you know, you saw Ben Keating, they put a new tyre on, got him to the end of pit lane to hopefully go out and maybe try and replicate a bit of a quali sim and get a clear lap in. So, yeah, people's trying to make as much as the time available.
All right, let's have a quick listen in to the Oliver Gray Esteban Masson front Pereira car.
I don't want to sacrifice to get a good quality run for Esteban for me to have a few more laps. So if we're looking tight on time, then just say Esteban can jump in the front.
That's Oliver Gray a few minutes ago, just talking about how they ought to be treating this session. The drivers already thinking about what they need to do for qualifying, which comes up next. Right, we're back in business then, and it's going to be a busy racetrack with so many in a long, long queue, all pouring out at once. As 101, the Ricky and Jordan Taylor, Felipe Albuquerque car sits still in the pit lane. But yeah, no shortage of takers on that green light.
Yeah, I think everyone's obviously out there just finding as much space as they can, and you know, it's quite a long out lap here, so even if you are on a new tyre, you can sort of prep the lap as well as possible.
29 you were just looking at, the AO by TF car, Rodrigo Sales, Matthias Besch, Clement Novalak out of the LMP2 battle. Of course, LMP2 we don't see in the World Endurance Championship other than Le Mans, but it's going to be a really, really fierce battle, that is for sure. And at the moment, it is the RLR M Sport entry that heads LMP2 of Michael Jensen, number 16. The car shared with Ryan Cullen and Patrick Pilet, everybody in the same type of car and engine combination in LMP2, but different teams operating them. There's the TDS racing car in the pit lane. And behind it, number 90 Porsche. That was the one we saw rallycrossing a little while ago, wasn't it? So the Antares Au Lurk Hertog Klaus Bachler car is in. All Porsche specialists, and Antares Au the bronze driver. Right, 1 hour and a quarter then, still on the clock. And Peter, really high temperatures again this afternoon for the drivers, the teams to have to cope with.
Absolutely, you know, it's over the years we see the temperature up and down and up and down, and
yeah, no argument about it this afternoon. It's just been hot and still very, very warm here at Le Mans.
Three. Car from United Autosports, their Pro-Am entry of Daniel Schneider, Ollie Jarvis and Ben Handley has been in the pits for much longer than it ought to have been in the pits, I would suggest. Whether Nick is going to be able to get down to United and find out, get to the bottom of that, but that car number 23 has been in the pits, I say longer than it ought to have been, I'll be more precise, pretty much an hour, I would say. That car has been in, and as I say, that just suggests to me there is something of a problem for it.
Yeah, and you'll be able to keep us updated with any other cars that are in for a lengthy period of time, because that's sometimes difficult for us to monitor along with everything else, but it's something that can easily be overlooked, and a car all of a sudden, one of our CrowdStrike pit reporters will walk past and go, how long's that been there?
Well, and it's double trouble for United, because the other car, 22, the Pro entry, which is Pietro Fittipaldi, Renger van der Zande and David Heinemeyer Hansen, that's been in for half an hour. So it may well be that United are just doing some routine maintenance on everything, and that's all part of the plan. But
2 seconds, Paul. Quick message to the fastest car in the session so far, Miguel Molina in his Ferrari. 4 more laps is the suggestion from his engineer, 3:25.302. So we've been talking about Cadillac, the fact that 4 cars are all together, near neighbours in the pit lane. Let's get to Nick Damon, who's in that vicinity.
With Will Stevens, Will out number 12. I noticed that the car was up on hijacks a second ago. What was the problem?
No, nothing. Just trying things, going for our run plan. I think we've made good progress since Sunday, which is always good to see. But yeah, just still going through our checklist, make sure we're ticking all the boxes off, but all headed in the right direction.
So you've made progress in Sunday, not on the track. So how is that done? Where have you been? How have you made that progress?
I think honestly, like every team nowadays, there's so many people here at trackside from engineering. Their test day is all about gathering data, trying lots of different things, so the team can go away, spend 2 days analysing it all, and then build a better package from what we've learned from the test day. So, yeah, I think test days are now much more, you have a run plan as opposed to working on balance there and then. So, yeah, all moving in the right direction.
4 Cadillacs here. How much of a help is that? Are you all sharing information amongst all 4 cars?
We are, yeah. So obviously the first time having 4 cars feels a bit more like the LMP2 days with everyone having the same car. But it's great, you know, obviously we're all trying to work together as best we can. At the end of the day, it's 4 lots of data, 4 lots of things we can try. So ultimately, we can move forward all together to hopefully get a good result here for Cadillac.
When you bring together the WEC and the IMSA teams, do you find you've both been going in completely different directions, or are you actually very similar anyway?
No, I mean, obviously every team, even drivers, have preferences to what they want to do and where they want to push towards. And I think IMSA to WEC is so different on circuit generally. But I'd say there's a general theme of what people want. Obviously, there's a few of us going WEC and IMSA, which is always good to try and get that symmetry between teams. But the idea is we all push in the same direction to keep improving race by race, which hopefully we can keep doing.
You're talking about, you know, constantly trying to improve the car. I mean, but are you keeping one eye on what everyone else, the other manufacturers, are doing? Do you have a feeling where you are in the pecking order?
I think it's so hard to say. I'm sure everyone down the pit lane saying the same thing. There's no question that there's a lot of fast cars here. The competition's so high, and I generally think there's, you know, a lot of cars can win this race. We can only focus on ourselves. If we build the best race car we possibly can, we execute a flawless race is the main aim. I would like to think we should be there or thereabouts come the end. So we can only focus on ourselves, honestly. We have no idea what the others are doing. But yeah, we'll keep working to our program and we'll see where we end up.
Next time these cars are on the pits is the first session of qualifying, Hyperpole. It's been very evident within the WEC this year that qualifying's been super important. I'm not sure it'll be quite the same in a 24-hour race. How much are you putting any setup work during these next hour and a half onto qualifying?
Not massively. Obviously, it's hard here because you've got quali sessions in the middle of free practice sessions. So, you know, there's a lot of cars in hypercar now, so you need to qualify towards the front. You obviously don't want to give up track time at any point of the race. So yeah, we still want to start up the sharp end, but as you say, it's a 24-hour race. We also need to focus on our race car. So there's an eye on both, to be totally honest.
Well, thanks, best of luck.
Great interview there from Nick Damon with Will Stevens as part of our CrowdStrike pit and paddock reports. And it's always going to be a difficult day, I suppose, tomorrow.
And yeah, these guys will be busy for the next 3 weekends in different disciplines as well. You see, he's driving obviously a prototype this weekend, and he's obviously back into his standard GT3 car for the next couple of weekends after. So yeah.
A lot of curve taken again there, but number 20 then, with Robin Frintz at the wheel, 15 with Kevin Magnussen at the wheel. Everyday life in the background carries on around the roads of Le Mans, as Kevin Magnussen then comes onto Mulsanne Straight with just about 68 minutes to go. Into the pit lane again, the Manthey Porsche, the team at WEC. And the best of the Porsches thus far, third in LMGT3, 92, Ricky Perra at the wheel of the car. But GT3, that again is going to be a mega battle, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, especially with the lineups, a lot of these cars I've got in, you know, some of these silvers are very quick. You know, they're very much touching on a pro. So yeah, they'll be maximising as much as they can. And it's always close in the LMGT3 class as well between so many different manufacturers. So they'll be definitely trying to tune the car as much as they can and get ready for qualifying later on this evening.
Yeah, and of course, each year more cars coming, more manufacturers coming. Mercedes back for the first time since 1999. So
remember that, don't you?
Vaguely, yeah. So yeah, big year. You know, this race and WEC in general, it just goes from strength to strength, and the field's bigger, more manufacturers in there, more money obviously, and hopefully more for the fans to see, more great racing. And you know, me myself, I'm really happy to be back at Le Mans 24 hours in such a big year as this.
You're quite used to it, but Johnny, looking from the outside in, you're going to get a very different view of the race because you're actually going to see the race, whereas normally when you're in a car, you don't even see what happens to your own car unless you're literally in it, right? So it's a very different experience for a driver.
And sometimes in a stint or a race, you don't really see your teammates because you're on rotation all the way. You only see them at the checker flag, and hopefully it's a successful one. But yeah, you don't see much at all. You're sort of, especially when the race starts, you're literally arriving in the car, do your couple of stints, back, sleep, and then it's just repeat again. So yeah, it's nice to follow this weekend, really see the detail behind the scenes. And just, I think it's going to be a cracking race in all three classes this year.
Talking about the detail but behind the scenes, I was just doing my little bit of homework there with WEC Full Access on YouTube from Spa, and even though I was there and I watched the whole race in the steward's office, the little bits that you see behind the scenes and just to bring you in, and the comments and everything, and it really is worth the watch. So you know, anyone that's wants to catch up with WEC, and of course Le Mans 24 is one of the rounds of WEC. Go and look for that on YouTube.
And it is fun for fans, and I count myself among them, to be able to watch the relationship between the drivers, the interplay in the garages. You know, you really get a feel for what the nature of these guys is when they're not, you know, helmet on and working hard. 38 Caddy still at the bottom of the timing screens.
The wheel's not straight anymore. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not straight.
Box.
Interesting. A steering issue for Sebastian Bourdais. The only man in the field who was here 2000. Yes. So Sebastian Bourdais, of course, the family, him and his dad, both raced, born and bred here in Le Mans. Now lives in the US, has done for a number of years, quite a number of years actually, since his kart and IndyCar career really took off. And like so many drivers, sort of deflected off F1 and skidded off into earning a living as a racing driver, because that's not something that many people can do in Formula One, but it's certainly something, if you're a young kid or you've got, you know, young kids who want to be racing drivers, this is where they need to be looking.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You've got 20 seats, or soon to be 22 seats in Formula One, and as a young driver, it's your goal, your ultimate goal. But you know, there can only be so many drivers, therefore you've got to start looking at other things, and this is a very viable option to be in a hypercar, to be in a world championship. It's a great place to be.
There is so much sports car racing, you know, with the GT3 category so successful globally, with hypercar across the world as well. It's a phenomenal time to be a racing driver, a young racing driver, to try and go out and create a career for yourself. Just saw the Caddy coming in, but also the Alpine coming very slowly out of the final element of the pit-in road. Now, I didn't think that he'd just been released from scrutineering. There is a little tent just as you come under race control, and cars randomly get flagged in there. So Sebastian Bourdais stays in the car, shaking his head, obviously chatting on the radio, and they are going to put the dollies underneath. It'll go back into the garage. Now, this is standard practice if you need to do anything more than routine service, because you are limited to just 4 people who can work on the car on the pit apron, but you can throw all hands and kitchen sink at it. And if he's got a problem with the steering, 4 people aren't going to fix that on the pit apron.
It does seem that perhaps he's clattered a curb heavily or something like that, and it's just knocked the steering out, or one of the components has failed.
Great view of the underside. The flat floor underneath the car has to be flat essentially between the axles, and then you get those Venturi tunnels at the back. Very carefully and artfully crafted around all these cars. But since I've been away, what's David done to the number 6 Porsche? Has he broken it? Do we know what was the story with that car?
No.
Okay.
Sorry, Martin, can't help it.
Currently second fastest, and of course that is the driver lineup that won the World Championship last year, or most of it. Kevin S, Lawrence Van Tor, joined by Matt Campbell. And Ferrari still with the fastest lap of the session, which was on lap 2. So brand new tyres, full tank of gas, but unhindered by traffic, presumably, that early on. And Johnny, coming with your view from the GT classes, there's always that awareness you have to have of what's coming up in the mirrors behind you, and it can't help but compromise your race.
Yeah, and also compromise potentially qualifying later with LMP2 traffic as well. But you know, these cars have definitely got good advancement in terms of a rear view camera system now, radar system, so it does help. It is trickier in the night by using that system, but it is massive. It's lap time, especially in Sector 3 when it comes to Porsche entry and all the way through Porsche curves. There has to be a bit of give and take between the Porsche side cars and the GT3 cars, but yeah, it is hard for the bronze drivers to really adapt to that as much as they can, especially if they haven't been to Le Mans. It's fine learning the circuit, but learning the traffic management and learning the hypercar distances and speed is massive.
Yeah, that always seems to me to be one of the toughest things about this race. You learn the track because there aren't an awful lot of corners to it, but it's, yeah, when you're exhausted and your car is too, and your tyres are worn out and you've not got half the grip or, you know, the speed that you need, still having to avoid getting clumped by something coming in much quicker. And the problem, as we've seen over the last couple of seasons, is that it's rarely a single hypercar. It'll be a battle. It'll be 3 or 4 or 6. And every time we go green after a safety car, and that's inevitably, I think, probably going to happen a few times in the race, you know, suddenly it's reset again. It's like the beginning of the race every single time, whether it's wet, dry, light or dark. See, different nose section being put on the 51 car, and as we talked about a little bit earlier, just making sure that everything is exactly as it should be. The way that the cars are homologated means that you no longer have a special low downforce body for Le Mans that you'll test at Spa. The body is what it is. There's only one adjustable aerodynamic element. It can be at the front in the nose, or it can be at the rear on the rear wing, but that is all you're allowed to change, and everything else must be exactly as the homologation sheet suggests. So it should hopefully all be identical. Now down with Cadillac Hertz Team Jota and the not quite so mighty 38, Bruce Ioane. Bruce, what do you know?
Well, I haven't spoken to anyone, but I can see something very interesting on the actual chassis. And maybe Anthony can give a little bit of insight as well.
Hang on a second, going to stop you there because we're just seeing a replay of the fastest car in the place, the number 50 Ferrari, with Nick Nielsen having a very rocky ride over the gravel. He got away with that, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, there is a piece of carbon fiber which is attached to the structure of the chassis. it's a non-structural piece because that's where the cooling system of the brakes is attached to the chassis, but it is a piece of carbon fiber which is attached and glued together to the chassis, and that piece has come off. So I don't know why Seb is still at the wheel.
There is a lot of vibration.
Yeah, expected. The vibration are confirmed. No lift and coast.
Okay, so sorry, it's all going on. As soon as we get Bruce on, everybody else wants to chat. So a piece of carbon fibre that was delaminated or separated from the car, come on unbonded?
Yeah, exactly. And they're trying actually to glue it back right now, but they're having quite a bit of work, so it's not looking good for the end of the session for the 38.
No, it really isn't, is it? And like everybody else, they are up against it in terms of the next thing that will happen on track is qualifying. Now, for those of you of a certain vintage, hello, John Watson, no reduction for OAPs, apparently. What used to happen on Wednesdays, we had 2 practice sessions, 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours at night, and then the same on Thursday, 2 hours in the afternoon, 2 hours at night, and your fastest lap out of any of those 4 sessions set the grid. Now we have a specific qualifying session, that is this afternoon, and then the top 15 cars from each of our classes, which for this weekend are Hypercar and LMP2 GT3. Those will go through, top 15 LMP2s, top 15 LMGT3s will go through into the second phase of qualifying, which will be tomorrow afternoon. So here we'll have a 3-phase qualifying spread over 2 entire days, because Le Mans not long enough.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, it's such a long event anyway, and then you finally get to the race day, which the race starts quite late in the day, really. So the mechanics and everyone else are up early, and then finally you start your race. Then you've got 24 hours, then you've got the after part. So it's a massive event, and then, as we talked about, there'll be some of those guys doing next week at Nürburgring 24 hours, and the week after that at Spa 24 hours. So it's a big month.
Yeah, but some of them missed the glorious beginning of 24-hour season. The Citroen C1 24 hours at 6. 20 minutes, like 3 laps in. Good night, everybody. Come back on at 9 in the morning. It's a little half-hearted, the commentary there, but the race was good fun. So 38 with a real problem, and actually bits of composite that come delaminated, that is not necessarily usually something that happens. That's very unusual indeed, and not at all expected.
And good to find now, to be fair.
Absolutely. Now then, just to bring you up to speed, qualifying, we will be on air at 6:30 local, which is in 2.5 hours time, 18:30 local, which is 16:30 GMT. So wherever you're watching, if it's morning, afternoon, evening, yesterday or tomorrow, you can join us for that. And we will work through the qualifying schedule at that stage. But we will be on air at 18:30 local, 16:30 GMT. Meanwhile, we are into the final hour of Free Practice 1.
TNT Sports, powered by Endura. This weekend, another unmissable doubleheader of bikes.
The lights go out now and we go!
World Superbikes continues at Misano in the UK. The Speedway Grand Prix rolls into Manchester.
I can't believe it! Here it comes, Greg!
He's going to go straight through to the final.
Unbelievable stuff!
What a weekend it's been!
All live on TNT Sports, the new home of bikes.
You'll see things differently now it's free to sell on eBay. eBay, things people love.
With a simple search, you can discover the world. Doing things like this. And that there. Or even this. Wherever you're going, discover tours, tickets and attractions at getyourguide.co.uk. Unforgettable travel experiences.
Here we are. Ah. You know how we're covered by Sun Life's guaranteed over 50 plan?
You don't look covered.
Thinking about your future as got us thinking about our own.
We're becoming naturists.
When our time comes, there'll be a guaranteed cash payout.
Can we use it for counselling? And there are no medical questions either. Those things can be so awkward. Oh, Fluffy.
Search Sunlight Plan today and get a free gift card. This is an urgent appeal from UNICEF UK. Children in Gaza are in critical need of food, water and medicine, and we need your help. UNICEF is working non-stop, providing life-saving medical supplies, clean water and fuel to keep services running. But we can't do it without you. Search UNICEF Gaza online or text Gaza to 84901 and help bring hope for children caught in this devastating crisis.
We tend to overlook the mechanical aspect of a wheel change. We just assume it's going to happen, but it's so easy just to misalign the wheel gun and you can get that cross-threaded much more easily than you would imagine, Johnny.
Yeah, well...
Because they're very short these days as well, because you want to get them on and off, so the actual time of this being on the thread is very short.
But different metals are used, aren't they, to make the wheel, the cap, the stud, and what it goes onto as well, the spline or where the thread is, so that actually it should be the wheel nut that fails before the more integral bit on the car, but that doesn't always work either. So meanwhile, 3 cars absolutely together into the chicane. We've got to get used to this, Peter Mackay.
Well, we're going to.
Welcome back to Le Mans as we ride in the number 6 Porsche Penske Motorsport 963 of Matt Campbell. Got 2 very Aston Martin related drivers in the booth, Peter Dunbrek and Johnny Adam, watching a Porsche struggling to get by the Aston Martin Valkyrie, which it does now down to Mulsanne Corner. But the Valkyrie for a brand new car does seem to be coming along quite nicely.
Yeah, development's been ongoing, and you can see the improvement it's had even last time out to Spa. But as you guys have touched on before, this could be quite a good circuit for the car. You could see just when the Porsche was following, the straight line speed of the Aston looks good. But yeah, the team ultimately, I think their goal this weekend would be to get 2 cars to the finish, execute as well as they can in the pits, and no mistakes by the drivers. But it's a learning process, obviously, for them. It's a great sounding car, an iconic car so far, and yeah, it'll slowly but surely get better for them, and they'll be competitive.
Now, looking at the Porsche, which was designed as a race car, and now Porsche, for lols, have made a, quote, road car version of it. It's not ready for sale. It does have lights, it has a leather interior, but all the impact protection of the race car, but sort of channeling the spirit of Count Rossi's road-going Porsche 917. They've made a road-going-ish car. The Aston Martin Valkyrie is the only hypercar for which there was originally a road car base currently, but it's been a bit convoluted because Aston Martin Valkyrie, with which you, Peter, were involved in the testing, became the hypercar program, but when that didn't happen, that became the pro track-focused version of the Valkyrie. Correct? And then from that was derived our current hypercar, and they're now making a road version of the current hypercar, which comes from a track version of the original road version.
Yeah, it's all very complicated. I think there was always the AMR Pro was always going to be there.
Yeah.
But you're right, the hypercar program came about, and then it got stopped. So we just went over to track and road car, and then it came back again, and it's like, well, you know, why was it stopped in the first place? Obviously money and these issues, but
F1.
It's so, yeah, well, but it's so good that we've got everything now. So actually on Friday, I think about 12 o'clock, there's going to be 15 Valkyrie road cars driving around the circuit, and I'm going to probably be in one of them myself.
He said
finally, I'm back in the commentary box, not having to mess around with timing systems. Crayla, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. That's what's the time of the 50 to know the time of the other. Time of the 50 for IA, of course, 3:25.302. The 51 Ferrari AF Corsa. I'm trying to find out my timing monitor right now. I'll go to the hypercar category only. Is a 3:26.864 to give you information there. So it is currently in 10th position, so it's 1.582 seconds down. There you are. Happy to help.
The team has been chosen by Hyundai to basically bring themselves and Hyundai's engineers up to speed in endurance racing, and coincidentally, they seem to be having another fantastic season, so they are absolutely in the mix for LMP2 honours this weekend.
So is this the first stop-and-go penalty we're seeing? So we're actually seeing it in this session. So providing there's time to do it in a session, the team will be allowed to do it before the start of the next. But if you know, with 3 minutes to go, someone had the final track limit, then they would start the next session 5 minutes late.
Or at the end of the race, if you run out of time or decide not to take it in the final couple of laps, time is added on. So in place of a drive-through, it'll be 35 seconds added to your time. In place of a stop and go, it's 40 seconds plus whatever the stop and go penalty time was as well. So it's a little longer, the pit lane here, than other tracks. And as a result, those pit lane deltas have been sort of stretched out in the regulations. Now, among our Cadillac flotilla, the fastest car is still the blue one. That is Wayne Taylor's blue Caddy, car number 101. Cadillac number 12, Hers Team Jojo's moved up to second fastest, ahead of the Whelan car, which is 3:11. That's run by Action Express. That car just outside the top 10, but 38, malingering down in 21st place. Not even on page 1 of the timing screen, which is not ideal, really, when you're looking at a hypercar. A little bit disappointed also to see the Alpines so far down. They've been very quick all year, have been on the podium. I'm just going to double check whether we've had an Alpine on the podium at each race. Talk amongst yourselves. No, we didn't. We didn't in Qatar, but the 36 car has finished 3rd in Imola and 3rd in Spa. So there's no question it and the BMW are much more competitive this season than last.
So dark horse for the race then?
Should be. They should be showing more pace, or you would hope that they're showing more pace than they are at the moment. I mean, you can see on the timing screens for the moment, the Aston Martins, who would normally be sort of propping up the bottom of the hypercar class in terms of outright pace, are quicker than both Peugeots and not far off being quicker than the Alpines as well. Meanwhile, 51 Ferrari team ready to receive.
I think round here, when people get into qualifying simulations and they run lower fuel in a new tyre, the gain is massive, you know, so you might find a few of the cars lower down in the leaderboard just now might have just concentrated on a race balance, really just done a bit of their homework, and maybe for the last half an hour they're looking at then dialing the car into qualifying. So yeah, I'm sure it'll be a big gain if you got a clear lap, low fuel, and the right drivers in the car.
So 51 coming in and being scrutineered. So they will be looking for specific things, not always the same thing for every car that comes through the tent, but it will be weighed and measured as well. Obviously, all the cars went through scrutineering on Friday and Saturday in the centre of town, were all found to be legal, decent and honest. Then they ran on track on Sunday. Since then, they have been at least partly stripped and rebuilt. So the FIA just double-checking everything.
Okay, so you're on the scale, then please will be probably 45. I'll let you know when you restart.
Sometimes what they'll be asking, can you get reverse? You know, they'll be asking maybe if the driver can engage reverse gear, that they can see it. and it's a spot check basically, so it could be anything. So the driver has to be aware where everything is on the dash, how to get reverse quite cleanly. Yeah, they have to be very much ready for that decision.
Do you think the modern cars reverse is still made of chocolate, or because back in the day
you didn't want to touch that gear?
You really didn't want to have to go into reverse.
Well, that's the engineer's thing, isn't it? How often are we ever going to need it? Well, let's make it as light and flimsy as we can possibly get away with and hope that it will work once. Julian Andlauer in the number 4 Porsche, number 5 Porsche, moving up the order. That car now up to 4th in hypercar. As you can see, he's on another quick lap. A best first sector for the driver. Not quite as good in the second sector. Alessandro Pierguidi arrives back in the pit lane after his quick wash and brush up and conversation with the officials. James Collado taking over. You can see the special seats that Ferrari, like a number of other teams, are using. They have a network of cooling channels in the back, so you can see on the top of the helmet there's a tube. The driver plugs it into the air hose, and that feeds cooler air into the helmet. But they also have a cooling system in the seat that actually, a cooling network of channels in the seat that actually helps reduce the body's core temperature. So instead of seeing Ferrari drivers getting out with their back of their overalls absolutely bathed in sweat, they get out with a much lower core temperature.
Times have changed, haven't they? I mean, even you, Johnny, going back to the first time I did Le Mans and a few more times, it's like you're basically driving in a sauna. But as times have improved and the tech's improved and aircon has been brought in and stuff like that, it's a lot better, more driver friendly and safer.
I think with the seat element, I think Corvette were one of the first ones to introduce that. They were very much all about, through Oliver Gavin to be fair, really pushing on comfort for the driver, you know, because the engineer will always want to make the car as fast as possible, but if it is as hot as it can be, it's not nice.
Well, you understand, you know, the engineer wants to make the cockpit as small as possible for aerodynamics and the car as quick as possible, but the car is only as quick as the driver. And if the driver is literally boiling his brain, he's not going to be as quick as he should be. So it makes absolute sense. I always say, I mean, for years, if it was a differential that was overheating that badly, they'd be all over it like a rash. It would be cured by the next race. If it was a gearbox, if it was an engine, if it's a driver, yeah, go to the gym more. That doesn't work. It doesn't work. Well, let's hear from the Ferrari team.
On tire bar 5-3, we are starting the third stint on this tire.
Now that's really interesting. That absolutely is working on race strategy, because they will not put new tyres on with a new driver. They will give him a set that are already hot. Why? Because the moment the new driver leaves the pit lane, he's got maximum grip. He's not trying to adjust to the conditions of the track and not trying to adjust to a cold tyre as well.
David, we're just going to put the car in the box quickly.
Okay, David, we'll put the car in the garage. I don't know how long it's going to take. We'll have an issue with the upright, front right. You can jump out, problem. Sorry about that. We've got 45 minutes remaining, but it will be quick.
Yeah, so that was an old message from United Autosports. The 22 car still in. You can see them working on that. Down in the pit lane, Bruce Schwani. Bruce, you've been ferreting around with Alpine. What do they know about their lack of pace?
Trying to find the balance. They're still unhappy about the car balance, and Mick Schumacher was in and he made a double change in the single stop. Rear right height and front torsion bars, which really shows that they're struggling to find a good balance with the car at the moment.
Well, I think that's a valid thought, actually, Johnny, because the fundamental rule of engineering is only change one thing at a time.
It's easy to get led down the wrong path and overcomplicate the whole process, you know. But they'll be, you know, they'll have had a bit of history with the car, and hopefully they're changing the right things. But yeah, to change 2 or 3 big things shows that they've maybe not got the balance so far, and they're sort of running a little bit of time before qualifying and trying to get that balance back and make sure the driver's in the groove and happy with what they've got for later.
22 heads back out into the fray in LMP2, and as you can see from our timing pylon, 3 of the top 4 cars are Pro-Am. Now that doesn't mean that it's all amateur drivers. It's exactly what it says, Pro-Am. So you will have bronze drivers, silver drivers, gold drivers, even platinum drivers in that mix. But crucially, the bronze driver is the key. If you have silvers, golds and platinums, you're in the pro class, not in the Pro-Am class. So if you have a bronze driver, RLRM Sport Do, for instance, car number 16 there, bronze driver Michael Jensen from Denmark with Ryan Cullen and Patrick Pilet. So it's all about mixing the gentleman drivers in with the rest of the field, but actually giving them an opportunity to score a win, and that's where the Pro-Am class came from, not just in GTE Pro and GTE Am in the GTE days, but here in LMP2 as well, to give the guys who fundamentally are usually funding the entire program a chance to race for their own glory rather than just being sort of 8th or 9th behind lots of hot shoes superstars.
It's
95 United Autosport McLaren.
Pushing on, using all the track and a little bit more there. So, yeah, fair play to him. He's really getting up to speed around here.
And actually, the Porsche curves are an area where you really need to do. I mean, you need to ride the curbs everywhere because it makes the track shorter. Getting himself up to speed.
Martin, be careful, track limit and karting last lap.
So Martin Berry, relative newcomer to the championship, joined at Imola.
Yeah, I raced with Martin last year in European Le Mans in the Aston, and very good amp, you know, very dedicated. Always wanted to do Le Mans, so this is a big weekend for him. And this along beside European Le Mans and the rest of WEC, I'm sure he's going to take it all in this weekend and improve as the season goes on. But yeah, very determined am to improve and get the results.
And I was chatting to him about the difference between the Mercedes and the Aston Martin. I said, do they feel kind of similar? Because you expect, you know, you got the engine out front, the horse is pulling the cart, there must be a lot of interplay. It's a very different car, but at least it's not a Porsche or something where all the balance and everything, all the instincts he built up last year in the Aston still work because it's a front-engine, rear-drive car. So actually, I think the conversion has been relatively straightforward for him.
Yeah, I think they're both 2 very good AM cars, and I think with his experience, he'll adapt quite quickly. And he's got a great team around him with Iron Links, and they've got 3 cars, so 3 sets of data, 3 sets of different AMs, and good pros in the car. And they'll be coaching Martin and others as much as they can. And you know, the process with the Mercedes seems to be getting better. There's clearly getting their head around the car. It will take a few more rounds, but it's great to see him in the race and hopefully enjoying the whole weekend so far.
Yeah, well, he was loving life in Imola and in Spa, and you know, who's not looking forward to this? You know, it's such a great opportunity to come and race. You know, these guys will never get a chance to race Monaco Grand Prix. They'll never get a chance to do the Indy 500, but they can race here at Le Mans as well and enjoy every moment of it. Now then, lightning fast lap coming in from Mighty 38. Now that it has left the garage, Sebastian Bourdais has taken the 38 Jota Cadillac from last to fast. It is on top of the timing screens by a massive 0.15 of a second. So that was after we saw them in the gravel early on with Earl Bamber in the garage having some delaminated bits of car replaced or repaired. Replaced, I would think. So Sebastian Bourdais clearly a little frustrated in the cockpit, and now letting that out on track. There's the other B in the car, Jensen Button. And he seems to be really enjoying his season as well. They probably haven't had the luck they might have enjoyed. They were leading, they were 1-2 in Qatar. Behind the safety car restart, then the cars came together. And that's definitely a race that we felt pretty much could have gone Cadillac's way. As it turned out, Ferrari claimed victory in that one. But on pace, Cadillac could well have been there. Is this going to be their year? They got a 4-car onslaught. That's as big as any manufacturer in the hypercar class, Peter.
As you said in your opening words, if Le Mans chooses to let them win, then yeah, but I mean, it's going to be a mighty task to beat Ferrari around here. The Porsche is actually improving up in 3rd place in a minute as well, so you know, we've got a good mixture of different cars up there, and you know, if I had to put my money on a car right now, it would be a Ferrari, but you kind of do want someone else to win, don't you? I don't know.
You know, it's that thing where the cars are so close together. They are genuinely so close together. The target for the rule makers is to make them within 2% of each other in terms of potential lap time. And that's the goal they set. And it's that close. It is that close. Our fastest 5 cars are covered on a 13-kilometre lap by 0.8 of a second. That's pretty darn good, and that's a Cadillac, a Ferrari, a Porsche, and a Toyota in the top 4, covered by half a second. 4 different brands, totally and utterly different, over 13 kilometres, half a second apart. So for the people who don't like BOP, come up with a better way of making it this close that doesn't involve everybody having the same car, and we'll listen.
GT cars.
You had the option of both at the time.
But there are a few drivers associated with Le Mans, not just Sébastien Bourdais. You think back to when Julien Canal used to come here regularly in LMP2. He's another born and bred man in the city. Arnold Robin, the Robin family, in fact, are from Circuit de la Salle, not from the circuit itself, but it's been there forever, probably, as they were growing up. And you can't just necessarily enter the race. You need certain stars to align, but certainly, you know, the temptation is there from a very early age, and an intrigue to get involved, no doubt.
You think of also the drivers that have come to study here at the Technical University and be part of that junior program that's set up at Le Mans. There's just so much that goes around it. It's really the centre of the universe of motorsport on this week in June, but also at other times in the year as well. I mean, I have to say the French Grand Prix, the motorcycle Grand Prix, was held about 6 weeks ago.
Yep.
On the Bugatti circuit, of which we are sitting on right now in our for Performance studio. That was won by a Frenchman for the first time in 74 years.
Wow.
Which was amazing to watch, and Johan Zarco got the job done in changeable conditions, and just fantastic.
Yep, Johan Zarco.
Huge.
So, yep, yes, it was Johan Zarco. How do I know? Because I was commentating on that very race here on JB Motorsports.
Blew a lot of people away, and you didn't necessarily have to be French either to realise how important that was for that race. French winners here at the Circuit de la Sarthe are slightly more frequent in 4-wheel machinery at the 24 hours of Le Mans. So exactly 4:30 on 91.2 FM Radio Le Mans, 2.5 hours in, 30 still to go. It is time to pause then for an hourly update.
Well, that's their hourly update being taken in. Now, I'm delighted to say that JT's been working on a couple of things here, getting ready for the Le Mans 24 hours, and we are ready for it as well. And believe me when I say you're going to enjoy this, as the track temperature is improving out there at 40.3, temperature 30.4. Surprising me how great it is being at the moment. But, yeah, here we go then. And let's see if it's going to be good, because I've got it somewhere where JT sent it yesterday, but we were playing jokes with each other. Here we go then. Time to get in. I'll have to put my headphones on for this, because it is a stinger, and I need to hear the stinger. As you can hear the onboards of the Aston Martin in the background. Here we go then.
Live from the JB Motorsports Broadcast Center, this is the Le Mans 24 Hours Hourly Update.
So this is first practice for the Le Mans 24-hour in 2025. Cadillac have taken the top position at the moment. Overall, they are top dogs in what is a very bizarre session, let me tell you. We've had 3 red flags for accidents, but it's a 325, 148 for Sebastian Bourdais. He leads in the Cadillac Hertz Team Jota squad, leading in LMP2 categories as well, as we've got them here this weekend, is the number 16 RLR M Sport, 336.888. And then leading over in GT3, we've got the Acodis ASP Team 78 as well on the course. The 36 has just had a spin coming out the last corner, however, which has caused a few issues. Let's head back over to the team on the world feed.
Moments like this, you're looking for finer details, finer margins because of the competition, and you can make up time if you get that right. So that's what he's doing there. He's practicing for race day when it really matters. So he knows now that's a bit too hot. So bring it back from there.
His dad was the classic in and out lap king, wasn't he?
Absolutely, and yeah, you would see multiple mistakes from Michael back in the day in his Ferrari coming into the pit lane. You think, well, that's a bit of an amateurish mistake to make from such a well-accomplished driver, but there was method to his madness. That you have to be attacking the pit lane, because that's where you'll gain maybe a tenth of a second, maybe not even that, but it could make the difference between jumping the car or not when you exit the pit lane.
That can also be the difference between an AM driver and a pro driver. The pro driver is going to bring it down a lot quicker than an AM would.
Okay, Kamoy, this is 8 laps to go, 8 laps, and it's the start of the second stint in terms of tire age.
Copy.
Kamui Kobayashi, the qualifying king of this circuit, of course. Excited to see what he can do, assuming he's the one behind the wheel. I'm sure he will be when it comes to the hyperpole sessions, but we've got qualifying, of course, to come before that.
Well, if only we could ask the team boss. Oh, hang on a minute.
Hang on, yeah, he's at the wheel. I'm a little busy right now.
He gets the vote for himself quite often, doesn't he? Yeah. Team boss decides who's in. Kamui, who's going to qualify? Oh, it's you again, is it? Okay, excellent. To be fair, it's not like he's hogging the limelight and being slow.
Exactly.
He's pretty rapid, isn't he?
There's a reason why they put him in, and yeah, he's a bit of a genius when it comes to the qualifying lap. Speaking of fastest laps and pole position from last year, 3:24.6 was the pole from Kevin Estra. And when you think they're at a 3:25.1 already in FP1, that's the progress from last year. And we're in hotter track conditions as well.
Has the track changed much? Has it been resurfaced in the last year, or?
Just that little right-hand kink into the Porsche curves, the actual Porsche, Virage Porsche itself.
Where the little lump was.
Taking the bump, the depression out. But I know it's just they're operating the cars closer and closer to the limit with every day.
Indianapolis is goes nasty. That's the only big issue. I cannot really push. I'm flexing and then losing the car. Cannot stop my rotation.
Yeah, the area he was talking about where he's feeling like he can't quite push the car and into Indianapolis, that's where you got the tailwind, don't forget. So I'm sure he was aware of that. The team probably have let him know before the start of the session that that could be an issue, but he's just explaining that's where I've got the issue with the car at the moment. But drivers and teams still hunting for a bit of, I mean, you could give yourself 363 days of testing time and you would still be tinkering with your car with 1 day to go before it was the end of season, that one time to get it right. You've got to at some point, and that's the key, isn't it, Peter, that you must have been there as well in your time at Le Mans, just to stop. At some point you have to just admit this is the best we've got, get on with the driving, because the track's always going to be changing.
Absolutely. So what I find is that, you know, you have qualifying. It's almost you've got 2 separate events taking place, and that's fantastic to be on pole for qualifying. But believe me, when you get into the race, qualifying really doesn't mean that much, especially over 24 hours. And it's all about race pace. It's how fast your car is over one stint, what you can do with your drivers, how you manage the race, your pit stops. they all have to come together and be perfect.
And look how excited we were commentating on Kevin Estra's brilliant, exciting pole position lap from last year, where he was hanging the back of the car out everywhere, driving like a rally car, and we were going, wow, this is so well-deserved pole position. But in the back of my mind, I was also thinking, you're going to suffer when it comes to the race if your balance is like that. And sure enough, they didn't quite have the speed when it came to race day.
That's it, yeah.
Great little bit of social media, Philip Albuquerque there and Ricky Taylor showing you round the massive 4-garage Cadillac operation here. Wayne Taylor with his back to us. He is WTR, Wayne Taylor Racing. So team boss, former driver, and last time Cadillac were here with the North Star V8 program, he was one of their drivers as well. So what a great opportunity for somebody who's been running his own team for the last quarter century pretty much to bring a manufacturer for whom he drove back to Le Mans with his own team.
Bit of damage there on the left front of the Toyota. Looks like one of the strakes has broken off. And a quick fix repair job going on. And you don't only lose a little bit of... Sorry, it wasn't the Toyota, caught me out there. It's the BMW. It's not just the downforce you lose from one of those strakes getting broken off. It also creates more drag, unbelievably. Any kind of bodywork that falls off or is at the wrong angle, the amount of extra drag it causes, particularly on a circuit at this speed, is quite remarkable. Back in the days when we used to have the automatic lift and coast points, you would really notice how much more severe the lift and coast automation was if you had any kind of damage to your bodywork, because you're using more fuel to punch it through the air.
Well, it's one of our pair of BMWs, second season in World Endurance and second year at Le Mans for the BMW Hypercar program.
Showed good pace in Spa last round, but ultimately the result didn't come to them. So I think that, you know, they're gradually working away and getting quicker, and they just need all the other things to come together.
Yeah, out of all the teams, you'd have to say they're the ones that at the moment seem like they're nearly there. They're the closest ones to breaking through to getting genuine on-merit race wins.
Second in Imola, should probably have been second at Spa as well, that number 20
Could
car.
argue, yeah.
Yeah, and in the end, they had contact with Mike Conway that ended up ending their race. But, yeah, they've certainly in the shorter races, on the shorter tracks, and all of them are shorter than this one, they have got real pace. But, yeah, again, do they have the good luck coming their way? Now, hopefully before 38 gets released, the door will be shut, because we saw with the Aston Martin in Qatar what happens if your door comes open and you don't slow down and shut it. Got torn off.
You could see the digital side dash, the display ticking up as the car was in the pits with the fuel going back in. That's quite a bit more fuel going back into that number 38, so I'm guessing that Bourdais' time focusing on qualifying has come to an end, and then they've done a driver swap and they're putting a lot more fuel back in it for a bit more race balance perhaps. And you've got to choose your driver as well. They'll know at this point who's going to be qualifying the car in qualifying and the 2 hyperpole sessions, because by regulation you need to shift driver. Sebastian Bourdais getting very animated with his description of his car.
It'll be Bourdais, won't it? How far off pole was he last year? 7 thousandths or something?
It was, I mean, too close, painfully close, wasn't it?
Yeah. And, you know, if you're going to let anybody qualify a potential winning car at Le Mans, you're going to let the guy from Le Mans do it, aren't you? Jensen might argue different, but I think he'll... Yeah, I think it is most likely to be Sebastian Bourdais. But we'll wait and see. Again, all sorts of things might happen in the interim. Not least because we've still got 20 minutes of track time to work our way through. But Cadillac fastest of all from the number 50 Ferrari, last year's winning car and crew. Not the same actual chassis, but the winning number. Porsche Penske number 6, third fastest, last year's championship winning driver lineup, or 2 of them. Andre Lotterer is now in LMP2. And Toyota Gazoo Racing, car number 8 in 4th place. And of course that is the black Toyota, not the red and white one. And Sebastian Buemi's heroic last gasp effort at the end of last season in Bahrain claimed them the Constructors title. Now then, Anthony Davidson is busy looking at tyre data. I'm going to ask you, Anthony, and you don't have to reply now, has anybody used a soft or a hard, or is it all mediums so far?
Have not seen the hard tyre at all. That seems to be the one they're all avoiding. Most of them have been using the soft, the medium. I have seen at the start of the session, at least, 1 or 2 running the soft tyre, but it wasn't all round. It was just the side of tyres, but I've actually lost that on my as to who it was. It might have been one of the BMWs.
I was going to say, look at 15 and 20, and we're looking at Thierry Tassin, the man who is running from the pit wall the hypercar program. You'll always see him with the hypercars. Vincent Voss is always in the LMGT3 garage, and Andreas Roos, the boss of BMW Motorsport, tends to gravitate between whichever one is more likely to be on the podium at any stage, just so he can follow it intently. It's a very tightly welded unit, WRT stroke BMW, and they, you know, with all the history WRT had with Audi, it must be different to work with a different constructor, but boy, they are producing the goods. And Graham, you know, you look at the BMW in both categories, and every time you go into a race, you go, yeah, they could easily win this.
They're just taking strides. They're doing it in a very professional, very controlled manner. We saw it again at Spa. They were the team, as we said at the start of the show, that were taking the they were making the different choices on tyre strategy, and they've got, I think, every reason to expect more is to come. Just before Spa, moving into that fantastic new facility they've got just by Liège Airport, and I think we're going to see headlines galore from them for more than one reason in the coming weeks and months. I expect to see them being some more success in both these classes, and I think they've got plans to take these programs further.
Yeah, absolutely.
All teams have only used a medium tyre in this session. You've got 24 individual tyres. You can mix and match however you want in the World Endurance Championship, and that, of course, includes here at Le Mans. It's not like Formula 1 where you have to stick to all 4 being the same compound. You can do whatever you want in this championship, but everyone has used just the medium compound in this session.
Interesting. It's what we heard at the start of the session, 45-degree track temperature. So not quite sure how much more it needs to be to persuade people to go the hard.
I wonder, Anthony, whether it's what we're leading up to, because they need to get a handle on the car, on the tyre they're going to use in qualifying, and that seems to me like it's, in qualifying, most likely to be the medium. Whether they risk a soft in Hyperpole tomorrow, again, maybe ambient temperature and the length of the track would mitigate against that.
You're definitely going to, it's definitely shifted the focus, I feel, this rule tweak. It's shifted the focus more towards qualifying than it has in the past. But I just think the medium tyre, I spoke to Michelin before this session, and they said it's because of the higher track temps, it's pushed people away from using the soft tyre more towards mediums. I don't feel that the hard tyre was ever really going to be a realistic option as Mick Schumacher. That's always brave stuff when you see 2 slower cars on your left-hand side fighting it out themselves, and you commit to using a little bit more of the track that you would really want to, as Bruno Famin on the left-hand side and Nico Lapierre on the right. Watch on.
In fact, Mick Schumacher's just gone quicker through the first sector than that car has done at any point through this session. We'll also, by the way, say, just with a little bit of storytelling here, if this was the qualifying session, we'd have an Aston Martin Hyperpole.
And Neil Jarni in the 99 Porsche, the Proton Competition privateer car, is absolutely flying as well. So still a couple of quick laps coming in.
Mick Schumacher, meanwhile, has got almost a full tank of fuel here, almost a full bar of energy, so not focusing on a qualifying run right now.
So Harry Ticknell, just a couple of laps ago, he's been in and out of the pits in the 007 Aston Martin, took a full second out of the best time we've seen from the Valkyrie so far today. He's now done a 3:28.008, 14th quickest, just ahead of the fly Neil Jani, who I think is going to improve on this lap. Gets a clear run through the Porsche curves here. That would put him 14th and 15th, those two cars, into Hyperpole 1.
Don't get too excited, because he's just put on a brand new set of medium tyres, so explains a lot of their performance just there. But definitely, and we said it before, this circuit's going to suit their car more than we have seen at the likes of Imola, for example, before. So yeah, the car's performing better, but I still think it's very early days, of course, for them.
I completely agree, but we have got two very quick times underway at the moment. Neil Jani, as Martin just said, and also Mick Schumacher. Both those cars go through and improve in their second sector. In fact, Neil Jani moves up now to 13th place, so what, a 3:26.919. So from the 3:28s to the 3:26s, Neil Jani, almost 1.8 seconds quicker than the Proton car had gone to this point.
Just looking into the garage here, Lila Wadou debriefing with the engineers after stepping out of the car, one of 5 female drivers in the race this season. 4 of them in LMGT3, Lilu in the number 150 Ferrari, and of course 3 in the Iron Dames Porsche, Celia Martin, Rahel Frey and Sarah Bovey. And our other female driver is the multiple W champion and former British GT champion at the age of 16. Jamie Chadwick won the British GT4 championship title in her debut year and completed her GCSEs while she was doing so.
Just to show you just how quickly things can change, that's 2 sentences completed by you guys since I last spoke, and since then the Aston Martin's now out of where it would be for that's how quickly it can change. Mick Schumacher moves up now to 14th quickest, ahead of Terry Tincknell and Phil Hansen. Neil Jani just 1 place ahead of him, but there's some quick laps going in for a number of cars. Now it's time for Harry Tincknell to run the crack.
Number 50 has put on a brand new set of tyres as well, so with 11 minutes remaining in the session, we're going to see what they can do. It was Nick Nielsen at the wheel, I believe it still is.
50 car back out track, it's certainly shown us the Dane. Salvaged a fantastic second place with a great fuel-saving run at the end of the Spa race.
At the moment, all 4 caddies are in the top 15. The relevance of the top 15 is that's the cars that will go from today's qualifying into the first part of Hyperpole tomorrow. So that will be the target for everybody, because 16th on down in any of the classes, you're going to start in that position. But once you get through into Hyperpole tomorrow, then all bets are off and everybody starts from a level playing field once more. So that's going to be the key for everybody.
Just a quick point as we hear the absolutely glorious noise of that Aston Martin. Marco Sorensen getting on to the power. Harry Tincknell, by the way, well up at his previous best time on this lap. They'll be, I think, very happy with their day's work so far at the Aston Martin Tour team. Both the Valkyries running well.
And both Hers Team Jota caddies now up to speed as well. Nominato debriefing from the number 12 crew with Sam Hignett, the boss of Jota.
On board with Harry Tincknell.
Anthony, from the driver's viewpoint, you've said before how much it looks like a real handful, and it still doesn't look entirely settled.
Yeah, on the way into the Indianapolis, he wasn't able to utilise the whole width of the track, and that's always a sign of lack of confidence in the car. Not sure we're going to hear from Tincknell there over the team radio, but
a few gremlins in the system at the moment, working them out as we go along. And Le Mans is a more than 40 camera shoot, so there's an awful lot of audio as well as video going into our TV trucks.
Schumacher taking this FP1 session as if it's a race out there. He's taken no prisoners, is he? Round the outside and semi off the track on the exit of karting and the corners that follow after that one. And you've got to have a lot of trust in your competition out there as well, and your competitors, to allow you to do that, because the natural racing line is to go where he went. So you've got to have the awareness of people. There's a lot of trust put in place there. But Schumacher really sliding the car around as well through the Dunlop chicane. And he's definitely enjoying himself out there.
To a degree, though, he is doing what you need to do in free practice, which is absolutely leather the car. Because if you're driving it at 9/10, you're not learning anything that's going to be relevant once you get into the race.
Big improvement just now from Dries van Teur, the 15 BMW, up to 7th quickest. Notably here, gentlemen, thinking ahead to that hyperpole, the qualifying battle to get to hyperpole, between Dries van Teur, who's 7th quickest, and Harry Tincknell, who's 17th, is a single second.
It's going to be very tough. And actually, outside of the 15 as well, 83, the yellow AF Corsa Ferrari. So that car has been on the podium already this season, right from day one in Qatar, and is already a race winner. In fact, the yellow car in Texas became the first Ferrari to win anywhere other than Le Mans. So that, of course, that record has been broken, but they should be right in the hunt with 50 and 51.
There's an improvement from Harry Tincknell there. That brings him up just to 16th, but it shows from 7th down to that 16th place, that single second would drop a car out of hyperpole.
Yeah. Well, there you can see, as we do everywhere, lots of Scuderia Ferrari flags and caps and jackets and probably not too many jackets being worn this weekend unless they're camping, because it is a little chilly overnight. On board with the 15 BMW of Dries van Teur. And again, Body English coming down into Mulsanne corner there. The car up on its toes, really pushing hard.
It's always a part of the track where the car is right on the limit. The rear moves around because you're still slightly turning before you get to Mulsanne corner and you're on the brakes. There's a lot of weight transfer going to the front of the car as well, but you can still grab a front brake as well at the same time and have a lock-up. Now, you fling the car into Indianapolis. Again, not completely over to the right-hand side of the track before turning into turn 11, the left-hand part. There's a car in front before Arnage, the slowest corner on the track. It's the Proton Porsche. You're going to get a nice slipstream on the run down towards the Porsche curves, and actually moves out the way to the left-hand side.
It's a mighty lap underway from Dries van Teur. This is to be very close to the time set a little while ago.
Yeah, he's on a brand new set of medium tyres as well. He's had a lap to warm them up, and hence the push that he's on right now. Through the first part of the Porsche curve to the right, into the left, full throttle there. He's got traffic in his way. That's not going to be an issue when he comes to qualifying later on or in hyperpole because of that rule change, which I absolutely love. And this is part of the reason why I've been asking for that rule change for quite some time here, because we want to see these drivers deliver their potential. That potential on this particular lap, gone.
Yeah, but how close is he going to be? He had green sector 1, green sector 2, was on target to be only 22 hundredths off the fastest time.
Closest line now, and it's 1.4 seconds. We lost.
Yeah, you follow
1.4.
You follow a GT car around the Porsche curves, and that's the part of the track, apart from the dead straight line, where the hypercar's at its best compared to the LMGT3s. High speed, get more downforce in the car, and the car's just stiffer sprung as well. So those high-speed corners really benefit the hypercar compared to the GTs, and meet one at your peril basically when you're on a fast lap, because you won't be able to continue the speed. Slower speed corners like the one at the end of the lap, the Ford chicane for example, or even here actually in the Dunlop chicane, you lose less time. But in the Porsche curves, forget it.
So a 2-minute stop and go for TDS Racing's number 29 car, currently in the hands of Rodrigo Salas. That car will be getting that stop and go for overtaking beyond the track limits. So with just over 5 minutes to go, that'll be pretty much end of session for the 29. It's been feisty, hasn't it? Watching at the moment, by the way, Will Stevens underway.
Another new tyre runner, Will Stevens. I was just looking at the graphics there on my screen on the tyre app I have when you mentioned his name, Graham. So yeah, let's keep an eye on what he can do.
He's got a little bit of traffic, but if you get through that GT car as he runs down to Indianapolis, he's got a clear road ahead of him after that. But what we've already seen is it's close at the top, very close.
I'm fully expecting that. This was close into the chicane as well, running forward with Christensen, the first chicane, and then you're back on let loose down this straight towards the second one. As now we pick up Will Stevens, number 12, Cadillac Hertz Team Jota, flings the car into the right. You hear that V8 thumping away under him. Through the left, no traffic in his way through this part. And then you feather the throttle through the right, keep it tight, to then open up the left as much as you can. Takes a lot of curb there, and the rear of the car doesn't really like it that much. He had to back out of it, at least on the steering wheel. And it's all part of the learning process for later on. And then into the final chicanes, much, much slower here compared to the Porsche curves. And then open it up once again as you come towards the line. What's it going to be for Will Stevens?
Well, after Sector 2, he was on target to be 72 thousandths quicker than anybody else, but he ends up in 6th position.
I think that was a GT car through to Arnage that was just costing him a few tenths there. They're in this hunt. They're in this hunt, no doubt whatsoever.
And this is critical because he's going for a 2nd consecutive push lap, and they will need to do that in qualifying. They might not get the best out of the tyre in the first lap. He's now saying, OK, I've given it death on the first lap. I'm going to do the same on the second. Will the tyre hold up?
Well, we did a 32.5 on his first push lap in the first sector, and he's just on a 32.2 on this time around. So he's improved his own personal best as we ride on board with him now down towards that first chicane. So you're going to see him bring the car to the left-hand side of the track to open up the right-handed. The braking marker boards are the blue ones on the top left of your screen there, or top left of his windscreen, and he loses the car a little bit on the entry, pushes it a little bit too hard there. He knew he was on a better lap. He would have seen that on his own dashboard, and the rear just let go as he turned in.
Well, that's what you need to do. You need to learn where the limit is and then be aware of it in that 2nd push lap, because you might need it.
2 other cars that should be in contention in qualifying and hyperpole. With traffic on their current laps. An improved lap, by the way, significantly improved lap by the other Aston Martin. They're now 16th and 17th, knocking on the door of getting into hyperpole. They'll be utterly delighted with that.
Yeah, they really should be there. Ahead of the 83 AF Corsa Ferrari and the 35 Alpine, as well as both Peugeot.
Nick Nielsen taking that Dunlop chicane perfectly with a Porsche behind him following on. But Nielsen looks like he's pulled a little bit of a gap here, actually, just in those first couple of corners. Running P2 at the moment. Let's see what he can do at the end of the first sector, which comes just after Tetra Rouge here.
Yeah.
I'm watching the timing screens. Let's see it pop up. It's 32.7 compared to Will Stevens' 32.194. And not even a personal best for Nielsen. He's lost the best from the tyres.
Well, watch Felipe Nasr in the number 4 Porsche, 32.116, quarter of a second up on the current session topping time after sector 1. Will Stevens dropped back. He caught traffic coming into Mulsanne corner.
And he had that mistake as well, didn't he, in the first chicane with the rear stepping out. He's had a lot of traffic as well to deal with, as you say.
I'll back off to try and get clear ending. Yeah, it could be. And it's quite a lot of GT in front.
And this was the problem with qualifying before, and we saw some cars get through to hyperpole that maybe shouldn't have, and some cars that didn't get through that were just scuppered by traffic. So I'm really looking forward to the next qualifying rounds coming up. It's still going to be a problem for the LMP2s because they're out there with the GTs as well.
Now, we're watching Will Stevens, but Felipe Nasr was on his own on the Mulsanne straight. Nevertheless, did not even get a personal best in Sector 2. So that lap from the number 4 Porsche.
But Martin has picked up more time on the current session topping car. He's now 0.35 a second up on the time set earlier by Sebastian Bourdais. Has some traffic coming at Indianapolis, so Ferrari GT car ahead of him.
So that's the car he shares with former winner Nick Tandy and Formula E world champion Pascal Wehrlein. Here's Nasr out of Arnage.
There's the traffic, so it's not delayed him so far, and he's going to clear that before he gets the Porsche curves, well before he gets the Porsche curves. This could be quite some lap from Felipe Nasr.
This might be the fastest lap of the session. Checkered flag is out, as you saw, so it is this and no more. Of course, he'll have to do a slowdown lap to come in, but he doesn't have to slow down on the slowdown lap to come in.
No, he doesn't as well, and that's what's going to be the big surprise. You can see, as we welcome you back, the JB Motorsports team are with you, by the way, for the qualifying session that comes up in around about an hour and a half's time. It's going to be a lot of fun. Quick turnaround. Cadillac on top then for the Jota squad. It's a 3-minute... I'm trying to get the old classifications up now. There we go. 3-minute 25.148. 55 of course are in second. The number 6 Porsche Penske in third. Number 8 Toyota finishes fourth. Number 5 Penske Porsche in fifth. The number 12 Cadillac in sixth. The number 4 Porsche runs in seventh. 15th BMW MWRT team in 8th. Alpine number 35 is 9th. The number 99 Proton Competition is in 10th. Number 7, that's our first Toyota, by the way. The number 7 Toyota down in 11th position. Well, Kamiko Kobayashi, the man who's won so many of these Le Mans 24-hour races. Not great for the 7 car to be that far down. The first on the second page outside the top 10. That's a shocker in its half as well. Not a bad opening session of first 3 hours, apart from A, the timing screen's glitching, B, me having to rebuild the entirety of the OBS software that we use. But we got it in the end. Everything's now set up for qualifying, and that's going to be the critical one this afternoon. And fingers crossed it's all going to be good. We're going to get a secondary monitor up as well, so we can keep an eye on everything up here in the booth. Let's turn it down then as the flag's out, and everyone able to complete their lap times.
One big clump, as is often the case.
Yeah, I'm fully expected to see that because you're time limited, and like you said, it's a long lap. It's going to take close to 4 minutes on your out lap to feed these cold tyres in, despite the ambient being so high in the mid-20s or high 20s. It's still not quite enough to, when you imagine where the tyre runs, ultimately around 90 degrees Celsius. It's, you know, you've got a long way to go from straight out of the pits with no tyre blanket. So the out lap, you need every inch of track to get them up to temperature before 1 or 2 push laps. Engage, mate, engaged. Don't you just hate that?
I wonder if they decorate theirs the way that Hertz Team Jota do.
Probably not.
Just a quick rundown of some of the gaps here. Top 9 cars in that session separated by a single second, and then the next 8 separated by another second. So 2 seconds takes you outside of the qualifying criteria for hyperpole in that qualifying session.
Well, it might even be less than. I'm fully expecting to be less than that.
Because there's no traffic.
Exactly. This is still, you throw the balls up in the air in this session, you see how they land, and it's all because of the traffic. I saw many teams running brand new tyres at the end there. They went for it, but only a few slip through the net and get that semi-clear lap that you're looking for.
So just to remind you what we're going to see next, it is going to be qualifying. For the hypercars, it will be all 21 cars in 30 minutes. That will be from 7:30 local time until 8 o'clock. But before then, at 18:45 local, we'll see all of the LMP2s and LMGT3s. That's going to be 41 cars for that session. Busy up there. That's going to be, for the hypercar session, the top 15 cars to go through to Hyperpole 1, and 12 cars per class for the other 2 classes.
Yeah, we obviously had traffic in that last sector as well, but the car's now much nicer to drive. Just the high speed we need to work on, the security on a long run.
When Jensen talks about the security of the car, he means the rear of the car. So he wants more grip on the rear of the car for the long runs in the high speed. And that's how a driver talks about, when they talk about the security of the car, it's the car's balance makes you feel a bit safer inside it when you take it at high speed. And you don't want a balance like that. We were talking about Kevin Estra, the qualifying lap he did last year, hanging the back of the car out everywhere, even in the high-speed corners. And Jensen's wise enough to know you can't take a car like that into the race. So he's saying the car's almost there. It's a little bit more to give me some more stability in the high speed on the rear of the car. And then I think we can say we've taken it through its paces of short runs, low fuel, new tyres. The car clearly performs well. We've ended the session fastest. And then in the long runs, that's my job. That's what he was focusing on just there at the end. And it's almost there.
What a difference what he's doing this year compared to what Jensen did last year in that Chevy Camaro NASCAR. I mean, from something that's a fun
2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Last year was
Time
in the
flies.
a fun adventure to now very potentially being right in the hunt for victory here at Le Mans overall.
Absolutely. One quick update, by the way. Another improvement at the death in that session came in LMGT3, and it was Valentino Hazzaclo put the number 10 Racing Sprint Le Mans Aston Martin third in LMGT3. And what was that? Less than a tenth off the fastest time in the session, which was set by the 78 Lexus. Lexus topped that time from the 54 Ferrari and the number 10 Racing Sprint Aston Martin. 3 different makes, top 3.
And Lexus, we see on screen here, like the Mustang, they've come on leaps and bounds since this time last year, and they go into this weekend with a realistic chance of winning.
Absolutely.
From what we've seen in races previous to this one as well this season. But they just need to be a bit cleaner in the races, don't they? I don't know whether it's operationally or whether they've just had bad luck come their way.
They've got one big problem, and that is tyre wear on that car in the second stint. The second stint pace in that car has been a major issue for them.
But what do you have less of here at Le Mans with a lot of straight lines?
Absolutely.
Less tyre wear.
Yes. There we go, Martin.
There we go.
So the end then of the first session as the last car returns to the pit lane. We will be back for qualifying here on JB Motorsports at 5:30 British Summer Time. If you're watching this stream live, you'll be automatically redirected and the JB Motorsports team will be back to bring you all of the action. Thanks for joining us. It's been fun. It's been a bit chaotic start, but what a time for the Le Mans 24 Hour. We'll see you for qualifying in about 90 minutes. Bye-bye.